Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt, man! All right! Episode 60 of Shirt Show. We're talking with Max from Family Industries in California. Let's go! Shirt show!
Hey, Boo Bear.
Guess what?
Chicken butt.
It's really hard to do this during the day. I mean, not during the day.
First part.
What I mean is it's really hard.
That's what she
I
said.
mean, it's just hard to do this during workday.
Yeah.
Like my stress level it's up there right now. But now,
Hey,
now
at
that
least
you're
you
here,
get you get to take 3 hours out of your day to do this.
right? And you know, and you have that relaxing voice. Let's do our checks. Let me hear it.
Oh yeah.
Let me hear that.
Hey there, Sugar Plum. You look real good today.
I like how you.
I like that shirt.
Oh yeah, you know what it is?
Smashing Pumpkins.
No, it's just smashing.
Just smashing. That's what I wish we were doing right now.
I got this shirt from one of our buddies, Justin.
I saw that.
California Shirtsmiths.
It's awesome. It's a real sweet print.
It is.
We got JoJo in there.
Yeah, you want to say hi? Hey,
Joe.
Joe. Hey, Joe. You want to say hi to,
Hey, Boo
to our
Bear.
friend? You don't say that to her. Can you do that the whole time for us?
Sure.
No, not you. Her.
When there's home video of me as a kid, and I thought I was doing like this fucking like super awesome thing, and my mom's like, "What are you doing?" It's like a shoulder buster camera or whatever. She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Check this out," and I was like, and I thought like I fucking mastered this like magic dance. So
I need to see it. Send that over.
yeah, I'll get you some home video of me as a child.
Okay. Hey, do you know what the ocean?
Are you about to botch this?
Let's start over.
See?
What did the ocean say to the beach?
I don't know.
Nothing. It just waved.
Nice.
Where do boats go when they're sick? To the dock.
Okay.
Joanne is cracking up over there. So she's laughing so hard. It's one of those laughs where you can't hear her.
Like one of these where it's like,
Those are some good ones. You got any?
what do you call a sad strawberry? A blueberry.
I like it. I was going to say something like shortcake, and it was like, that doesn't make any sense.
So what's going on today? Why are you so stressed?
It's
Just got a lot going on.
Yeah, just a busy day, which is fine. And this, that, the other thing, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, I'm trying to do this today. And I've also got to do a week's worth of work today before I leave.
1 week's worth of work in one day. Yeah, okay.
For me.
For you, yeah, that's really not. That's
Right. It's not a lot, really. I just got to catch up
Right.
on a couple of YouTube videos. Water my plants.
Right. Maybe nap.
Get a
Okay.
solid nap in.
Sure. I mean, I encourage that. I mean, I think that we all should take every single day 20 minutes. That's all it takes.
So I haven't
20
taken a
minute
nap in so long. I feel like my yearly nap is on Thanksgiving.
That's more like a food coma.
Like it's tradition to eat and then immediately go to my chair and just pass out. I have that like dad joke every time where it's like, "Oh, do you guys hear that? You hear that?" And it's like, "Oh, it's my chair calling me." And then I go lay down and go to sleep.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
So sponsors, better get this going. Easy Way. They're one of our sponsors.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, Easy Way's line of eco-friendly chemicals will get the job done faster, more efficiently, and will cost you a fraction of the cost per
Screen.
screen.
You're welcome.
Easy Way. Easy Way.
It's the easiest way.
It is.
Truly.
And you know what? I love it when things just work. And doggone it, that 701 works.
Hell yeah, it does. Y'all ready?
We know what I was reaching for.
I know what you're reaching for. I just got to see your finger.
God, that sounds dirty.
Hopefully. Ready?
Oops,
There
I
it
almost
is.
dropped it. Oh, by the way, I do need to get a case for this because it happened again. Claire came in here and she had the nerve to pick this up, and she didn't even need a sticky note. She was just like fumbling with it. Like as she was telling me something, and I was like, I started to lose consciousness.
Mm-hmm. It was like seeing your baby like crossing through traffic like Frogger.
Right. I tried to tell her to stop, but I couldn't get words out.
Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? What about Frank? I've seen more posts this past week of people getting GSF screens than ever before. Like usually we're getting some for sure, like people, but I feel like this week it was like every day, multiple posts about Frank.
Yeah.
And getting new screens. So
I think
he's destroying on screens right now.
We should probably call him, and we need a cut of that. We need like 10 cents a screen. Like
Frank, you deserve it. You can keep my share.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew once I said that you were going to say that and make me look bad.
You work hard, buddy. You keep it.
You motherfucker. Yeah. Dylan told me to say that. And then he did that. Yeah, it's right here. It's right here in the fucking notes. But anyway, GSF, that stands for Graphic Screen Fashion. .com.
Or 5fsandrank.com.
Yeah. I told that to somebody and they were like, no. And they were standing in my office and I go, watch. And I did it and it went right to his website. And it blew their mind. Monarch has a
ink
dope ass high opacity mixing system that gets you the colors you need.
Mm-hmm.
And I just tried to order some more and I'm waiting to hear back about stock because I hear it's.
Yeah, I stocked up hard like a couple months ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you probably have it all. You're going to have to ship me some.
Mm-hmm.
Can I borrow?
I got extra.
All right. But I'll tell you what, Monarch, ink better, print better, be better.
Live Moss.
Monarch.
Taco Monarch. Taco
Monarch. Yeah. Okay.
Right. It's just a taco shell with ink oozing out of both sides.
Mm-hmm. And then we have a new sponsor, and that is Action Engineering,
which we are both super pumped on.
Yeah, this is a biggie. This is a biggie, and I wanted to ask you a question.
Sure.
What's the first thing you ever got from Action?
I think the roller squeegee or pallets.
Well, I know what mine was, and it was the roller squeegee. And I remember the day I got it. And it's kind of like, when you get your first car or maybe, your first
just
kiss.
Like that. I was going to say kiss. I think it's right up there with first smooch on the lips.
First, when that feeling inside when the butterflies and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. Like I opened the box and it was love at first sight. We use it every day. In fact, we bought another one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that thing. We used it for a really long time. But Action is like my go-to for like when I need new pallets. I need, before I got the quick clamp, I ordered a bunch of squeegees from them. I still order squeegees from them, flood bars. Mm-hmm. They have like all the weird sizes and stuff you would want for doing like sleeves, or they have those like aqua floods now for doing water base. They have like everything and they think of everything. So yeah, go check them out for sure. We've got some new stuff coming out there. The new pallet rack system, which I'm super excited to try out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were both super pumped on that. Like we were talking on the phone, me and Andy, about how when we wanted to get people to help us out with the show, like they were already on our list, like over, a year ago. And we finally convinced them.
Yeah, things sometimes it's just timing, isn't it? Well, tell you what, they have a coupon code and it's 15% off. When she told me how much percent off,
I know we both were like, really? Like for us? Like we get 15% off?
Do we get that too, or is it just like, somebody?
It's pretty rad. I mean, that's an awesome deal.
And you know what the code is?
Is it Shirt Show? Is it Andy?
The code is Andy.
Andy Pandy will get you 15% off.
I wish so bad that it was Andy Pandy. We're going to have him change it.
If you put in Dylan, you get 100% off. I love doing this.
All right. Is this almost over? Because it's like I log in and then I'm abused. I'm bullied.
No,
I'm bullied for like 3 hours.
It's a bad love relationship.
Yeah. So no, the code is Shirt Show.
Shirt Show, right?
SHIRT SHOW.
W.
Mm-hmm. So action. You got something for
engineering?
No, you have anything you want to say?
I have to come up with one. I can't do it on the spot all the time.
Lights, camera.
No, it's horrible.
Squeegees, pallets, action.
Yeah.
Andy,
action.
Ooh, that has a ring. There's a ring to it. Well, that's it. Let's do it.
What's up, gentlemen?
What's happening?
Sorry for the lateness today.
We were all late too, so it's fine.
All right, good. You got that jump on me with the West Coast time out here, so it's like, I feel like you guys are in the future a little bit,
Yeah, like when you agreed to do this and I saw what time you had to start, I was like, ugh, I do not want to do this 8 a.m.
Oh, getting the kids out of the house, making sure you get down here and walk the dog,
I'm barely awake at 8 a.m. Like I literally woke up like a half hour ago.
Well,
what time do you guys
talk about being in the future. We did one with Australia, aisle 6, and they were the next day when we were talking
at
to them.
noon. They were having their lunch break the next day.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So I'm just way back in time if that's the case. So you guys are in the future. They're like they're in. I don't know.
It's like a whole day ahead. Yeah, normally we do this on Sunday at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But I'm an asshole and I'm not going to be here on Sunday. So we were like, let's do it in the middle of the week.
It works out, for me actually, because my wife would be like, I'm not taking the kids for 2 hours, whatever I need to do on my day off today. So,
yeah. Well, we've wanted to have you on here for quite a while. And realistically, we wanted to have you on here just to talk about like maybe accounting. Like we didn't know what else you were known for, so we thought maybe just accounting we would talk about.
Let's do it. You want to dig into QuickBooks and like talk about how
yeah.
Okay, let's do it. I'm good with that.
So what's going on at your place right now? Are you guys even open at 8 a.m.?
Yeah, we've switched over to a 4-day work week for the production floor. And they've been here 7 to 5 Monday through Thursdays. And then our office staff is here Monday through Friday, and we're giving them 1 work from home day a week. So they can choose kind of which day they want to work from home. And usually we're here 8 to 5. So it's been pretty busy. The change has been nice. I think that the staff appreciate having a 3-day weekend. Today we didn't get, yesterday we didn't get through some of the stuff we needed to get through. So our production manager, Mike, was down there this morning. And he was a little embarrassed because he was wearing a yellow shirt. Usually he's in all black, and he didn't think that anybody else was going to be here today on the floor. So the first thing he said to me was like, "Oh no, I'm wearing a yellow shirt." what you look good in it. So, you know, I think it's it's a good change. You know, people let their guard down on a Friday when they're not normally supposed to be here.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask.
Go ahead, Andy.
Nope, you got it.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I've heard so many people switching over to the 4-day work week. Like, how do you really feel like it made a big impact as far as, I know it's really good for the staff because they look at that like 3-day weekend, but are you getting the same amount of shit done during the week?
Yeah, I think we are. There's some things we had to adjust to. Shipping and receiving on a Friday is tough now because the shipping receiving team is home on Friday as well. So we're kind of getting that worked out still. The one benefit I've seen, and I think that the production team would kind of attest to, is that they're able to, you know, like if you have an 8-hour day, you're spending so much time setting up and tearing down, or at the end of the day, so you have, you know, a little bit of a run left to go through, you kind of push through those barriers. So the next day you can kind of start fresh. And having that Friday, this is the first time they've come in on a Friday to finish a job that wasn't finished during the week. So I think it's worked out pretty well. And the 3-day weekend, I feel like is a good recharge for the staff to come in and push through for the next week.
I definitely feel like that's huge. Like, I feel like everybody here would super appreciate having like a longer weekend. The big benefit is that, like, if they want to go on an actual trip, you know what I mean? They have like all day Friday, all day Saturday, and they can kind of like putz home on Sunday. But the thing I've heard from some people is that, like, when you switch to the 10-hour day, like, they're usually burnt out by like the eighth hour, and they kind of like drag ass for the next 2 hours because they're, you know, it's a 10-hour day. So that was my concern, is like, are you actually getting a lot of stuff done during the week?
Yeah.
Are you seeing if they're still productive in those last 2 hours of the day?
Yeah, I feel like it's still been the same, you know, like the same push. So far, so good. It's been about three months that we've run it, and we kind of told staff, you know, Alex, my business partner, and myself kind of went through it, and we, you know, talked to staff and let them know that, you know, there may be some things that change with it. It was a test to see how it worked. And so far everybody's appreciated it. We kind of bring it up. We do a Monday morning meeting, and we kind of bring it up every Monday morning. Everybody's still good with it. Any concerns? And everybody's like, no, we love it. So for now, it's been good. We'll see. Let's see in 6 months how everybody feels with those.
Yeah, I'll get your progress report in 6 months, and we'll see how it is.
Absolutely.
Andy, do you think you could pull that off at your place?
I don't know. I mean, I was going to ask, you know, how often, because I feel like if we had that Friday with nothing scheduled, we'd end up, just like what you said today, what happened today, it would spill over into that Friday and we'd end up here anyway. And so we'd do the 40 hours and then there'd be a few of us printing. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be tough. It'd be weird to be here and not have the presses running. So,
well, the nice thing for you,
like that.
The nice thing for you is that you know how to print. So, like, realistically, on Friday, you would still be there anyway, like office staff. You could hop out and print a couple extra jobs if you had to get it out, but you would still have that like full 40-hour work week Monday through Thursday, and then Friday would just be your catch-up day.
I hate the idea of all that equipment sitting there and not running. You know what I mean? I think like
greedy bastard.
I think, well, it's not about that, because it's more about we can hardly get everything done anyway, and we already work extra. And so I think it's more, you know, and if you did work, for example, if you did get busy or you did scale, you wouldn't have to add equipment at your like this. You could just maybe open up that day. You know what I mean? Like, you have that equipment there ready to print. And so you basically could just hire either maybe a part-time team to come in, or stagger it and say, you know, like, you could go to the 4-day work week with everyone, and some people could work Monday through Thursday and some people could work Tuesday through Friday, and you could run production all 5 days. You know what I mean? Have you thought of that?
Or if you were busy, you could just offer overtime for Friday for whoever had to get shit done.
So many options.
Yeah, there's
so many options.
The overtime option I don't like, because once you get into overtime, if your labor's 1.5, you're already, you know, you're going to be squeezing your margins pretty tight. So I like the idea of just having staggering it, having people's 4-day work weeks, just different days. If you got into that spot where you have to run production,
we'll table this, and then we'll do a max 2 in 6 months and see how he feels.
Yeah, we won't be open by that point, probably, right? Like, if we'll all be closed.
Yeah. So what else is going on there? You guys been crazy right now, especially with things opening back up?
Yeah, it's been pretty busy. Once the floodgates start opening, I'm sure you guys see the same thing too. Once the floodgates open, it's like nonstop. You feel kind of helpless and the keeping up with everything. In-house, this last year was crazy. And we took on so many like fulfillment projects, like custom influencer boxes and whatnot. And, they're hard, and, putting all these different items together and pivoting over to that, side of things is tough because it's a completely different system. So now we're having to set up our fulfillment space back at our old location again, because we had a lot of it here when live was kind of not happening. So now we're transitioning it back to our old space, and then our live department's kind of taking the fulfillment space over here at our new location back over again. We've had a decent amount of events kind of just this last couple of weeks and like coming up. I mean, it's a pretty brutal schedule to try to get back into. And it's actually kind of hard. It's been hard to kind of get back in the groove again. Just like stuff that came naturally is you kind of just got to find your bearing. It's like riding a bike. If you haven't done it for a while, or snowboarding or skiing or something like that, where it takes like the first few runs to get it down, and then you start to like feel it again where it's not an issue. So you have to kind of find those points where you're seeing some friction and then kind of getting back on track again. Lots of embroidery events. We did MLB All-Star game. We did some laser engraving and custom phone cases for T-Mobile. We're doing some stuff for Disney this weekend. And then Rams training camp starts next week. So we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff out there with the LA Rams. And then kind of from there on, it's going to be a full fall and winter.
I noticed you said LA Rams, and that kind of hurts, but that,
I'm sorry.
We've all, I think we've all accepted it here in St. Louis, but
it's tough. I'm from San Diego, so I grew up as a Chargers fan, and then they moved up to LA, and it kind of made me mad as well. So I kind of feel that like now they're in LA, so you kind of have to get over it a little bit. But you guys at least got some championships out of it back in the day.
Sports ball.
You were talking about kidding, and I didn't even know the word kidding until maybe a few weeks ago, because all of a sudden I started getting emails, and the first one was from SNS, and it was like, hey, kidding, it's a big thing, and here are the trends. And then Inksoft actually sent one out talking about just kidding. And you mentioned it a second ago. We're kind of doing this for the first time for somebody. It's an influencer, and so far it's complicated, but it seems fun. But I'm getting ready to probably discover that it's not as fun as I think it's going to be.
Do you know how many, it depends on how many kits you're sending out, how many, like some of these things are coming from so many different locations. So like you're ordering item one from, a certain vendor, you're printing something in house, the box is coming from somewhere else. So it's like, it's taking these projects and you have to manage all of these different components, and it's kind of maddening sometimes, because then you have to worry about the fulfillment side of things and then packing it. And then some people need their boxes sooner, or there's international shipping. I don't know if you're going to be dealing with any of that, but yeah, it gets pretty crazy.
Now, like when I think of family industries, I think first off, like monsters of like live printing, but I also think like the other part of it to me is just like how much shit you guys do that's like super like out of the box or out of the norm for like 99.9% of the screen printing shops, like doing like the embroidery live printing, or doing the custom boxes for the influencer stuff, or like, do you have a staff that just like researches and figures out these items for these people? Or like with the live print stuff where they're like, hey, I want you to come laser engrave phone cases live. Like, do you just have like an R&D team that's just constantly figuring shit out all day?
It's kind of a lot of like, hey, can you do this? And then we say, yep, we can do that. And then we have to go back and figure out how to do it. But I feel like that's a lot of business, and I'm sure you guys have taken on jobs before where you've had to do something and then you have to figure it out while you're doing it.
That's like once a year. It's like somebody brings on a new screen printing technique that we haven't like mastered, and we figure it out and we're like, cool, we got that. I feel like for you, it's like every other day where they're like, hey, can you laser engrave this bandana while it's on my face? Like, what the like what? I don't understand. Like I said, I feel like it has to be like constant. Like you're just It is pretty crazy. We have a couple people over here.
Adam is one of our live events managers. He does a lot of correspondence and kind of like putting ideas together for the clients. We work with a lot of agencies. So agencies always kind of come in with ideas like, hey, we need to do something on site for, it's going to be Call of Duty championships. But we can't do this, or this, but the client wants, something else. Like, what can we do within that parameter? And then you kind of have to come back and say, here's some options based on the attendees. And then you have to figure out, and you will backtrack into what they need. So there is a lot of research on that side. We've been doing a lot of stuff, like I said, for influencer boxes with TikTok this last year. And I mean, I can tell you the amount of time that some of the sales team over here has just spent putting together, pitches for these boxes. Like, hey, here's an item that we think could go into it. Here's the cost. And then you have to find all these vendors and stuff like that. So there is a lot of back and forth. It's kind of high risk, high reward, I would say, because if you don't get it, you spend a lot of time putting your energy into those things. But at the same time, if you do get it, it ends up working out pretty well. So it's not easy.
I think the rad part of it though is that you're constantly adding, like once you figure those things out, you can add and add and add to your portfolio and be like, hey, we can offer you all these crazy different kind of things. And you already have the vendor figured out. You already have like the boxes. I'm sure now you have all kinds of quick templates. You can just like get artwork out, get a box. So that seems pretty rad that you could just like crank out stuff like that.
Yeah, boxes are like a 30-day turnaround right now too. And I mean, 2 weeks ago we had one that were coming to us from Pakistan, and they were supposed to arrive. They arrived a day late. We thought we got completely duped by the company. Like, we didn't think they were going to show up. We had to figure out another method to see like how we could get the boxes out. I mean, these are pretty technical boxes too, with like some, like on the inside, there was all these different compartments. There's speakers going into them and all these different little things that would fit into these slots that had to be built out. And then the enclosure was a magnetic top. Then they came, we got them all out in time, but it just there's so much stress with waiting for all of these things because they have to go at a certain date. So it kind of adds a level that you're not used to when you have a control with screen printing, like, hey, I'm going to get the shirts in. Hey, we don't have this shirt in stock. We can get you this one. Like, there's things you can do to get around that. But if you're waiting for a specific item for one of these boxes and it doesn't come, good luck.
Yeah, you're dependent on, a lot of other people.
Well, that's what I meant by like 99% of the screen printers are like just focused on, okay, like I print t-shirts and hoodies and sweatpants or whatever. And it's like, that's their day-to-day routine of like, okay, I know this customer wants tees. Let me get the artwork, do the flow, do the whole thing, and then go back to doing it over again. That's why I said it's kind of like you guys are like just figuring out new boxes and new stuff like that all the time. It's crazy.
Here, let me grab it. I have one right here. So it's JBL. So one of our agency clients needed help putting this whole thing together. And like, it has all of this inside, and then these different components on the inside of the box that have to be measured out. And then there was like these things that go on top. Speakers.
And they send you all the components to go on the inside?
We would, so they had JBL sent the speakers here. Right. So they did headphones and speakers, and they went out to, NBA players and, musicians, and they had this whole kickoff event out here in LA. But they also needed us to supply, tote bags and fanny packs, playing cards. And then there was like croquis for sunglasses, and, a couple other things that went into it. So there's all these different components that you have to put into it. But the other issue you don't think about too, if you're kidding, is taking things out of a box that it comes in and then re-putting it into another box. So that's a whole other component of time. Like, that you may not think about when you're doing it. And Andy, if you're doing that at all and you're bringing things in, is the time it takes to take these things out and then re-put them into another box. So that's a whole other thing.
Are you charging for that too?
Yeah, you kind of charge as a per box thing, as far as like receiving it, taking it out, and then putting it back in, and then kind of the whole box component. So you definitely want to account for that time. I would say at the start we didn't as much, but as we kind of learned about it a little bit more, we definitely figured that out.
That's like something that we kind of had a discussion here a little while ago about. And it's not as serious as that, but it's the same thing of like getting a screen printing order in, and it's like an athletic shirt, or even like independent hoodies. Like say somebody orders 4,000 independent hoodies and they're all individually folded or in bags. It's like, do you charge on top of what you would normally charge for a hoodie because you have to unfold every hoodie or unbag every hoodie and lay it out? You know what I mean? So we were kind of discussing like, what do we
do you guys do that? Do you guys charge?
We don't now, but we kind of had this discussion a little while ago of like, I don't know, most of our hoodie orders now, I try to push toward independent just because I love that brand and I like the quality of the apparel. So that's why we're facing now with shipping, receiving. They're like, hey, like I like these hoodies, but like also too, like I have to kind of like spend way more time unfolding all of these items. Can we add an extra, like, and it's funny, like me and the sales staff are having the discussion in front of Chris, who has to do the actual work. And we were like, yeah, we could like charge like another, whatever, a couple cents or 5-10 cents or something, a hoodie to do that. And he's like, it doesn't matter to me. He's like, I'm getting paid the same and I still have to do it all day long. Like you're not making anything better for me. You're just making more money.
Right.
So it's just, that's why I didn't know if like you order something from some other distributor and you get it and you're like, oh shit, it's like in a sealed plastic in a box in this other thing, and you have to undo and open every single one of them. I didn't know if you like figured that into your pricing structure for the box.
There was one recently that we actually had to turn away, and they're a great client, but they're getting all of their items through Amazon, and Amazon doesn't put tracking. You can't get this like specific tracking, like that things are coming from different warehouses. There's no box labels, so you don't know how many items are in the box itself. So there's no packing list and things like that. So we were just getting random boxes sent to us. And it just became too much of a burden to try and actually organize all that stuff. We just spent so much time being like, okay, this goes to, this specific kit or this one. Like there's a couple of these different kits for this agency. So we actually ended up sending that one to another one of our partners that we can use, and then convince them to let us get everything for the next one and be able to kind of just control that aspect of the box.
How many times have you been burned by, like you said, those boxes got to you a day late and you were kind of freaking out, like with random buying items from other distributors? How many times have you been burned on a whole order because of those items?
I feel like it hasn't happened yet, but now that I say that, it's going to happen. For knock on wood. We had one going out yesterday for a Netflix show, and it's supposed to be in the UK for a box opening for one of the stars of the show. And it was supposed to be there on Saturday, and it's not going to be there until Monday, according to FedEx. But when you're shipping international, FedEx will deliver sooner or later. So they asked us to actually make one more of these boxes. They're going to have somebody fly out there tonight to arrive there tomorrow so that this box can be delivered in person. So we're putting it together this morning and getting everything done. I mean, it requires, sewn in labels, taking out other labels, that's some other things here, a custom box and whatnot, but we'll make it happen. And it's too bad with FedEx isn't going to deliver on time, but we hope it gets there, and then they have two boxes to open at the same time.
Well, it's funny. I kind of had something similar to that the other day. We print a lot of stuff and ship it directly to like the venue for like a comedian or a band or whatever. And we overnighted this box of shirts to the venue, and the venue never told us like they weren't going to be open. Like usually what we'll do is we'll ship to like the closest UPS store, and then the customer can pick up from that UPS store because it's open and there's always people there. It's more guaranteed. So anyway, we ended up shipping to the venue because that's what they wanted. And then like it overnighted, got there a day early, and they were closed. So then UPS kept it and tried to ship it again on Friday, and they were closed. And the act called me and they were like, hey, like, do you know where the shirts are? And I would check the tracking and it said, tried to deliver. So I did this whole thing on Saturday where I like woke up, I was sitting in my living room, my underwear. I'm just like, fuck, I got to figure this out. So I call my UPS rep who was like at a lake house and he was like, yeah, let me try to figure it out. And he like did all this digging, found out it was at the UPS hub and that it was like in a trailer, had someone dig it out of the trailer, get it ready. And then the act told me to call their manager to see like if the manager of the club could like go pick it up or whatever. So I finally got a hold of that dude and he was like, it's like 45 minutes from my house. I don't think I'm going to go get it. And I was like, dude, I just spent so much time like trying to get the customer this box and you're not going to drive 40 minutes to go pick up this box. And it's like, there's nothing I can do. Like it was in like Arizona or something. Like I can't, other than like call some random number in Arizona and be like, hey, I'll pay you $100 to go pick up this box.
Right.
So it was just screwed. And I just had to reroute the box back to me and they didn't have any merch for that show. So it's just stupid, but it's crazy. Like you said, they're going to fly someone out to grab it. And
yeah, it's, I mean, sometimes people got to get things done. And, you know, when there's stakes on the line, they'll make it happen. So hopefully we hope that our box gets there in time, depending upon FedEx's shipping time. But you know, it was pushed last minute. The rest of the boxes are going to go out next month, but kind of got this last minute thing where it was like, hey, we need these boxes for the stars of the show this week. And we didn't have any of the items prepped, you know, with the woven labels or, you know, the cards that go in their stickers or anything. So we had to like set up our large format printer and print out like these huge box stickers that go on the inside of the boxes and whatnot. And it worked out. I mean, the boxes look good, but it wasn't like within the timeline or parameters that we had chatted about originally, you know, for a mid-August shipment. So, you know, you're kind of put in those positions where you're set up to fail, you know, and you try to come through with it. And it's like you take a rush order or something like that. And, you know, hey, we need these, you know, by tomorrow morning, you know, something's always going to go wrong. Just the way it goes.
It sounds like a lot of stress, but it sounds like it's worth it. I mean, it's one of those things like you know, the payoff is definitely worth it. Like obviously you guys are doing well. So, it's working.
We try.
So go back for everybody who doesn't know, I guess, go back, tell us, I want to hear your story, how you got started, how you got into this industry, everything else.
Sure. So like a lot of other people, I first was introduced to screen printing in high school. We had an after school class that was like, you could earn credits towards your regular high school, like graduation. So it was a night class and it was in the computer lab. We had an old stat cam. We had Ruby Lith, you know, like to do multicolor jobs and some like a vellum printer. So you could do single one color jobs. So a bunch of our friends all took the screen printing class. You know, kids started skate brands. We made like bootleg shirts for our favorite indie bands, you know, some posters and merch and whatnot. And it was kind of like a little group of people. We did that for like 2 years back in the day. And then didn't really have any screen printing. You know, I would order shirts for my band. I toured for a couple years and, you know, never printed again until I moved back up into LA after touring, playing music. I got a job at a music management company. And at that same time, I moved into a house or an apartment building and a bunch of our friends were in the same apartment. So it was like friends upstairs and friends downstairs. And we all decided that we wanted to get into printing. One of the guys had some screens. So we set up a little screen print studio in my kitchen. And it was kind of like, it was almost like a Seinfeld house where like people like walk in the door without knocking or anything like that. I'd show up coming home from work and the downstairs neighbor would be like sitting on my couch watching our TV. So it was kind of just like a calamity, you know, of people who are, you know, young 20-year-olds. And so we set up screen printing. We just did, you know, like the old wood board with the hinge clamps and screens. And we would put like, we would load like a piece of wood into a shirt so that it would lay flat. And then we would put that underneath and then we would just screen print, you know, single color designs. So that was kind of like, we started getting into it, you know, we'd wash out our screens in the shower and, you know, that's a terrible idea.
Were you curing shirts in the oven?
we use the heat gun. So just going along super, super slow. I actually took another job after working in the music management company at a magazine / creative group. It was a magazine called Filter Magazine, and they did a bunch of like magazine issues and events around that, but they also had a marketing department. So I joined the marketing side of things. And while I was there, they gained Toyota as a client. And one of the main aspects of their Toyota tour that they gained was that they wanted to send all of these Toyota Matrix cars out on tour. And these cars would go to all these different events or bars, and they would set up these little stops across the country. And I managed the West Coast team. And one of the things they wanted to offer was screen printing out of the back of the car. So you would show up to like a bar, and then you would pull out like a little mini press and screen print. So this is in about 2007, 2008. So I ended up getting all of the gear, because they had known that I had screen printed because I did a couple of jobs for them. I got all of the gear for all of the different teams across the United States and kind of like facilitated that entire like setup. So that was kind of the way that I got into screen printing again, was, having the kitchen set up and then into Filter. And then by the time we had finished that project the year, my business partner, Alex, and I moved a little screen printing shop into my back shed of our house. And we just started taking on some jobs here and there and doing some live printing. And, it was pretty crazy because we would come home from work and we would just start printing for jobs for other people. Cause at the music marketing company, they always needed shirts for, events and whatnot. So we were like gaining jobs, and I ended up making more money from my job printing shirts than I was getting paid as an employee at the company. So it was kind of like a weird thing where we're like, hey, this is going to, this might work out for us if we keep printing shirts and gaining clients. At the end of 2009, the boss was like, hey, you're fired, basically. Just go do what the screen printing, like, you're not paying attention at work kind of thing.
So was he pushing you into it, or was he just trying to get rid of you?
I was probably a little bit of both. And we still work with him all the time. Like he's one of our clients for Toyota.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then a week later, Alex, who's my business partner, he's got a whole other story of how he was in screen printing. He was actually at a screen printing shop. He was in charge of all the steps and, managing screens and art departments. And a week later, his screen printing shop went under. So the same week, we both lost our jobs, and we're like, fuck it, let's do it. So we had,
it's like the perfect motivation to like make it work now, because you have to.
It was the only time we were like, if we don't do it now, we're never going to do this. So that same week, we both said, let's go. And we had a little garage spot that we printed out of. And all the while too, we're doing little events here and there. Our first like big event came, it was for Comic-Con for a movie called Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And somebody had seen us at another event, and they're like, hey, we want to do this activation down at Comic-Con. All of the actors are going to come out and print with you guys. It's going to be this big thing. And at that point, we hadn't done anything so big. I think it was like 10,000 shirts over, the 3 or 4 days at Comic-Con. So we hired a bunch of our friends to come down and print with us. And we bought a couple of setups and, the old Ryonet silver presses and had these things spread out. And then from there, it just kind of like incrementally grew. So, we got more and more word of mouth recommendations to kind of grow the business on that side. And then it kind of went hand in hand with growing the shop. So it's weird because a lot of shops will start as a screen printing shop. We actually started as a live print company. We grew our screen printing shop on the side of that.
Well, it's cool because you had the like breakout thing with doing the printing out of the back of the Toyota. You know what I mean? That's like a weird, like that. It seems like something you would do now. You know what I mean? You'd be like, oh yeah, we're doing this thing for Toyota. We have presses and cars.
Yeah, it was definitely strange because at that point, I think there's probably, there's live printing has been around for a while. I mean, it's been done at sporting events and things like that for a long time. Stephen Farrig from Campus 8 showed me an old video of his boss made from the 80s of this like screen printing setup that he had for like the local college there that they would like set up and do these events. So it's been around for a while.
I remember Rich Hoffman was telling me about this dude who wanted him to make it was like a tractor trailer body with an auto in it. And I was like, that's like an insane, it like happened. They did it, but it's just funny. Like
that's crazy to do
taking
that.
that
Like,
to events.
I guess that's for like inventory purposes. Like I could see that. Like, I think like, for like major like artists or bands or things like that, they could show up and print depending upon what the demand is on site. And it would be easier to not overprint. I think that the big change for live printing came in the like late 2000s, like 2007, 8, 9, and 2010. There was a company called Hit and Run that was able to take live printing and the sales market and like, doing it at gymnastics or sporting events and flip it and direct it towards marketing agencies and having it be an activation at events. And we were already kind of doing it at the same time. I think they were one of the first ones to do that specifically. There's a couple other companies in there who did it around the same time. But they were probably the most well-known at that time to do that specific style of like marketing activations. So, they're still around and they do a ton of screen printing events. I don't think they've expanded beyond that.
I actually have a pair of Hit and Run Vans, like slip-ons.
Did they do that this last year for the Vans?
They had something. They were doing something with Vans and they got those like custom Vans made and it's got like the Hit and Run logos all over the top of them. I don't even think I've worn them. I just wanted them because I was like, oh, these are fucking rad. Yeah,
they're definitely cool. And the thing that like I respect a lot about them is they're able to brand themselves. So like if you're bringing them on site, like you're bringing Hit and Run on site. So like they're their whole thing, like they're branded as Hit and Run. Like we kind of went a different route where like when we're on site, we're going to be a white label company.
Right. Like you're there like, as Toyota or Disney or whatever.
Exactly. And we'll still get recommendations to do other activations that way. But specifically for Hit and Run, they're able to be there as their own brand, which I think is really cool to be able to like build that and have that as like this selling point for themselves.
Right. Well, the cool thing about stuff like that, like them and you, is it's funny to like be like, oh, I custom made this manual press that I can fit in like a rack case, and I just fly. Oh, it's like, oh, we're doing one in New York. Oh, we're doing one in, Florida or whatever. And it's like just a crew of like a couple dudes just flying around the country printing shirts. Like,
it's pretty insane because you come from a music background. Andy, did you tour or anything like that back in the day, or is it kind of no?
Nope.
He followed the dead around.
I toured on a bus in grade school with my band. We did a little bit of that. We had a couple of performances, different grade schools.
One time at band camp.
You got it, then. You got it.
It was pretty sick.
So Dylan, I know that you probably get the same thing, but it's like, it kind of like not being able to tour playing your music, it kind of filled like a weird void of like being able to set up like routing these different events. Cause like, you get an event that's in Chicago and then you got to get the guys to New York and then you got to route certain gear from different locations. So it's kind of like that map of, when Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, there's that meme and he's standing up against the map and there's like all these different things going across. I don't know if you can pull that up at some point, but like, that's what you feel like. Sometimes you feel like you're coming up with this crazy conspiracy theory about like how you're going to get gear from location to location and which team's going to be in a specific location at a certain time.
Andy, you got to know that, Andy. You hit me with It's Always Sunny memes all the time.
One of my favorite shows. So you keep saying activation. What do you mean by activations?
Sorry for the inside baseball term right there. Activation is basically like any event. Experiential marketing likes to have these little terms. So like if you're activating on site, you're going to be, the brand will be there with an agency and they may be offering, like free testing of like an item. If you're, at an event and you're sponsoring the event and it doesn't even have to be live printing. Like there could be a photo booth or it could be, like VR goggles or something like that. You're creating an activation for these people to go, like attendees to go experience and kind of connect with the brand. So the whole thing is activation. If you're at a music festival and Toyota is there, they're going to have activation. So that's kind of just like the term that they use to say they're going to be on site with their brand and offering these like incentives to come test out their product or like see what they're going to be doing.
So you're on site and you're printing, let's just say like for Toyota, right? You are not selling shirts for, you're not collecting money, swiping a credit card in like any sort of square or anything like that. It's already prepaid. So the person who's being activated, they're there and they're having this experience and they get a free t-shirt. Is that how it
exactly.
works?
That's it. There is, we don't do, and some people, it can have a successful business with it. We do not do any sales on site. So like we're pre-guaranteeing everything ahead of time. Hey, you're going to have 2,000 people on site. You want to hand out 1,500 shirts to create demand so that there's a line. We will charge for 1,500 shirts. We'll make sure we have the right staffing, the right gear, the right amount of apparel, inks, whatever it may be that we need to handle that crowd. That's what we'll have on site.
How many of these have you done where you set up a whole event and then the event got canceled?
There's been a few, mostly weather permitting. So like, you'll set up outside like of a venue for, a game or something like that. And then it rains like a crazy downpour or something like that. That's when the events get canceled.
Do you still get paid for that?
We do, because you got to put in like a clause. Because if you travel there, you get all the apparel, you get everything that's there. Like you still have like a guarantee to do that.
Well, I didn't know if it was like a certain amount. You're like, oh, we're still going to charge you like the travel and everything else. We just don't get the full amount, or do you just get the full amount? Like
if it's within a week, usually you'll get close to the full amount because it's hard to get like reimbursements for some of the things that you need. And we still want to guarantee the staff who is going to be going out to these events to get paid. There's a few weird instances last year when COVID hit and a lot of these companies had to cancel. We actually had, a lot of these things booked out. So we just did like what's called a kill fee. So it's like a portion of the invoice for the things that you've actually taken care of, but you don't pay anybody out. You can restock the shirts and things like that. So it kind of just depends.
Do you have staff? Like, is it your normal staff that's on normal payroll that you send to these, or do you just have people that you pay per event?
We have a combo of payroll staff and IC staff. So IC staff will be, like our New York team or people who are in Florida or whatever that will get on site at these events. And then we have a couple people, within our payroll that will get event pay. And then sometimes they'll come in for hours to help us prep kits and whatnot. So it just depends on the staff and the location. But generally, if they're out of California, then they'll be on IC.
So do you contract any printers in different states, like to go handle certain things? Or is it always just somebody you trust from there flying out and then managing the situation?
So we have like some like base staff that we've kind of trained over the years in different locations. So like if we need to do something in New York or Miami, or if you go to Dallas or, certain cities across the US, we have some people that we can trust to bring in. But we will always have, multiple managers or like people on our team be on site at the events, but we don't hire other print companies to go out and do an event. And more and more, we're seeing that these like bigger agencies want more customization on site. So like they always have the bigger ask, like, hey, we want to do custom names along with this heat transfer, along with something else with embroidery. So like we want to do all three of them, and you just can't find people who can do all three of those types of things. So you need to have your own staff to go and do it. So it kind of, if you just do screen printing, it's probably a little easier because I feel like heat transfers and screen printing has a lower barrier to entry to like actually be on site at events.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So that's like a big difference, I feel like, because sublimation is a whole other beast that we get into, and you have to do so much testing on the tech back end and making sure things are printing out at the right size, and like building web-based apps to then go to a moderation tool to then print out and get these things out. It's sometimes drive you nuts.
Max, how much does being in LA play into the partners that you develop? Like, can I pull this off in St. Louis You know, like, or could you, like, if you were located, you just happen to be in St. Louis, could you pull off the same things that you pull off? Because the names you're mentioning, like JBL and Disney and Toyota, all those guys, I mean, they're, you know, those are big brands. And so it's because that their agencies and their marketing people are in LA, and then you develop those relationships. Or, I mean, what about a shop in, you know, smaller towns? Do you think they have a chance at that?
I mean, you could technically, you could do it from anywhere. I think it's a relationship though, like with the companies. There's a lot of the agencies are in LA or New York. There are some in Chicago, you know, as far as like, I would say like the three main hubs across the US. But, you know, if you were a shop and you had those relationships and you're like, hey, I'm going to move to a spot where it's a little bit less expensive to set up, you could probably do it. But I think it's that relationship and creating those relationships. I think being in LA is essential to being able to do it on like a bigger level if you want to. But if you want to do it on a smaller level, you could absolutely make that happen.
Well, do you have people from these agencies showing up at your place now, especially like your new offices, and can like walk through and talk through the whole thing?
Yeah, we just started opening things back up again, you know, and like letting people come back through. So our plan is to do a little bit more like a demo type of things for the partners and agencies to come through and see things, because sometimes they won't get it, like what a specific activation is. So it's easier just to show them, you know, hey, this is what we can do laser engraving on, or this is what embroidery we can do. And you know, a lot of people don't understand with screen printing that on site, you probably want to do it on a cotton or a polycotton type of item. You don't want to get anything that's too complex, like with, you know, inks and curing and things like that. And obviously like anything flat is pretty much the only way to go on site. So you have to like explain these over and over again to people who have seen it to make sure that they understand that there's certain limitations to being on site versus being at a, you know, in-house at a print shop or a facility that produces items.
How much of your business, now getting away from the live thing, how much is your business is just being like a fucking, like being a screen print shop in LA?
We're about 50-50, but there's certain months, in all honesty, where there's like such a, like a connection between the two, because, you know, you may need to print 5,000, you know, neck tags and then 3,000 sleeves and then, you know, whatever it may be for these events. We're combining the two things. So you get the live client, but you're also getting some things for the in-house at the same time. So you're able to combine the two of them. And then there could be 1 month where it's 70-30, where it's like 70% live and 30% in-house, but that could swap the next month where you have, you know, 60% in-house printing and 40%. So it's really dependent upon the time of year and how many different live events there are at a time. And, you know, I think people are still kind of figuring out how to go about everything after the last year, you know,
for sure.
But it seems like people are ready to go as far as like booking events. We had one that we were going to do in November. And they actually canceled. It was in LA. They canceled because they were worried about the new variants or whatever. But that was the first time I've seen that. And I haven't heard anybody else worried about that at this point. So, you know, we'll see what happens.
So are most of your clients then, even though it's not a live thing, are still like from the agencies? Or is it like someone walks up and they're like, hey, I have a plumbing business and they want to do some stuff? Like, are you doing that stuff?
We do a combination of everything. A lot, you know, local breweries, you know, like yoga, fitness studios. You know, we do a lot of stuff for the Clippers for like their specific team merchandise. So like anything from like what their gear is, they'll drop off stuff and then we'll print that for them. And then we do a lot of artists. We do a lot of poster printing, you know, and then fulfillment for certain clients. One of our bigger clients is this company called Rocket Lab. And then, so we do all of their rocket launch shirts. So they do, I think, like basically one rocket launch a month. And then they make a custom shirt, kind of like similar like the old NASA patches. And they do a patch and then a shirt. And then like they'll put it up on their store and people can go order it. So we do that store. And they're actually out of New Zealand. And we met them through AS Color. And so it's a big variety of clients. So it's not specifically like one subset. But we'll keep our minimums to a little bit higher just so we're not dealing with, sometimes I feel like the smaller orders take way more time. And I'm sure you guys feel the same thing. When somebody wants 12 shirts, you spend 3 hours trying to help them get their 12 shirts. Whereas somebody who comes in with 500 shirts, sometimes will just know exactly what they want and they'll let you do it. So
yeah, it's the best. Yeah. Sure.
Dylan, you kind of rolled your eyes at the plumbing business shirts, but I say we kick it up a notch. I say that we do kitting for the plumbers out there, for the plumbing companies out there. And we say, look, and Max, you'd be your position to do this more than anyone. You could take any plumbing business and then make it like so dope, send out a kit to all their best customers and they'd be the most popular plumber in town. I don't know. I kind of like it. Instead of being so boring, like every plumber has like a safety green with the black ink. No. Not this time.
The full kit. They come in with headphones. They got their fanny pack and their like influencer jean jacket.
That's right.
Yeah.
I like
you make them like a custom flap that goes on the inside of their jeans so their ass crack doesn't hang out. I like it.
Oh no, that's terrible. It's like a bodysuit that goes around, like they have it's like a tank top thing. I see. Right.
I have another question. So, is that a palm tree behind you right there?
What do you think it is?
Because it looks like it, unless it's a painting.
It's a TV.
It is it's actually a combination palm tree and 5G tower. So I'm getting radiation into my head right now. So we bought this lot and it had an easement for a cell tower. So there's 2 palm trees and then a cell tower palm tree right next to it.
I thought you were going to say it's a fake palm tree, that it's actually a cell tower, because they have that here.
No, that's what it is. There is the one that's up taller is actually a cell tower. That's a palm tree. And then there's one palm tree. I think the other one got cut down.
Dude, those are so ridiculous. Like we have a ton of them here in New York and it's like where I am, there's a lot of like big mountains and rolling hills and stuff. And they're covered in trees. Like it's trees everywhere. But then all of a sudden there's this one fucking like pine tree that's like 100 feet taller than all the rest. And it's just like branch. And it's like, dude, obviously like that's a tower. Like just put a tower up. Like don't even try to like bullshit us.
I know they try to hide it. When we built this spot, they didn't actually mark where the 5G line went. So like we were building the foundation and digging down underneath. So our contractor was like building around the edge of the lot and they hit the 5G line and it like severed it. Luckily it didn't stop the service to the line because like AT&T has like a little bird. It's AT&T and T-Mobile has like a little bit of an easement on the side of the property. Like it's not theirs, but they can use it to go to like the main tower. So there was a whole like debacle, like when we were setting up our spot and building and they actually had to build that line on the side of the building to like reroute where the line went. But we don't make any money off it. The guy who owned the property before us signed the easement off to somebody else. So it basically like they paid him all up front. And then it was like, here, you get to use this for 30 years and not pay anybody to use the space. So as soon as we get that 30 years is up, we're kicking them off.
So in 30 years, you can get rid of that hideous tree.
Yeah. It's like 2049 or something crazy.
It's awesome. So tell us a little bit, you don't have to go crazy, but like the whole with like buying a building in LA and like revamping everything, like how crazy was all that? So I don't know, like what is weed legal in your guys' states at all? Like, did you have to deal with that at all? So once they legalized medical marijuana and like actually legalized like just weed in general, a lot of those companies had a ton of cash they couldn't put into banks or anything like that. So they were searching for the exact same warehouses that we would be looking for and spaces that we needed because they had cash just to put down a building. So like it drove the price up of all of these similar warehouses like crazy. So they would be looking in specific zones that are basically like entitled to grow marijuana and dispensaries and things like that. So it was tough for a while competing with these places because they would go in, offer all cash, buy the building, and then be done with it. We were in escrow on 2 places and both fell out of escrow for the seller's purposes. Like just, they couldn't perform.
And then finally we found the spot we're in now. And there was only a specific portion of the building built out. And then we said, you know what, like we like the location. And we ended up just we worked with Chase, and there's a company out here called Cal Statewide, and they're like an SBA nonprofit company. And they were able to basically go through the whole SBA 504A loan program and help you connect with the bank and make sure that everything goes through for construction purposes. And, they helped us through the whole entire process of like getting the construction loan along with Chase and getting it built. Overall, from buying the land to then finishing completion of construction, it was a 2-year process. Going through LA DBS is a little bit of a pain in the ass because there's so many different codes out here. I don't know what it's like where you guys are, but like every single thing is enforced out here. So it's like, specific water coming off the roof has to go through a planer box to then go into the soil. Then it has to go out to the street so that it's clean. Parking requirements have to be specific based on your floor to area ratio. And so it was definitely a headache. We got through with it. The week that we got the approval to move in, a week later, everything in LA shut down. So we're like, yeah, we're moving into a new spot. And then they're like, oh, guess what? Everything's closing down in LA. So it was kind of like a super happy moment. And then we're like, oh shit, like what are we supposed to do?
How hard did you sweat when you heard that there was like shutdowns and shit after you just put all your money and time?
It was definitely scary for a bit. The one benefit was that SBA had like a deferment period to pay off a specific portion of the loan for businesses. So that helped out for the first couple of months. We kind of felt things coming though, because we had events canceling, in early February as like things were starting to happen. Like an event would be like, hey, you know what? We're going to push the June event out. And then it just started like dominoes. Like we'd get calls like, hey, we got to cancel. And then, eventually like everybody else, it was like a week where everything just completely stopped out here. And then, everybody pivoted, we didn't do, I wouldn't say we did a ton of masks, but that was a little bit for a while. But then as you kind of saw, like direct to consumer, people needed stuff. So they set up web stores and things like that. It just got it was a pivot. And I think like you guys have talked about in the past, like everybody's kind of made the changes that are necessary to keep the business going. And I think it's made everybody stronger, smarter, just like figuring out how you can keep things going, because we all need different revenue streams. You can't just like focus on one revenue stream. It's that you're never going to be able to it makes things tough, because if that revenue stream slows down, then your entire business is going to slow. Like what are you supposed to do? So as long as you have different streams coming in, it helps keep things rolling.
Yeah, you got to be able to get the Tesla. That's for sure. Different revenue streams. I'm all about the diversification. So we're all three of us are in this Slack group, and like for printers, and there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of different text groups and Slack groups and things like that. But we're in this one, and there's a lot of information in there. I love it. When I have time anyway to check in on it, it's really good stuff. But I shared something, I don't know, a few weeks back or maybe a month ago about how I'm kind of stuck as a, owner operator. And you reached out and you had a couple of documents and you shared them with me. And one of them was, I printed it out. One of them was like a training program. I think it was for customer service, for your customer service team. And
yeah.
Like you gave me the full document. I'm like, this is crazy, cause it was a lot of, some of it was specific to your shop, and
he's got it for sale for what, 15,000? Well,
I mean, it has a lot of value. I mean, it really does. But what it did for me, like I couldn't use it and it's the way it was, right? Because it was basically for your shop, and you use different things there and different software and things like that. But I used the outline of it. And what I really liked about it is it was like it's titled, it said this training program outlines learning milestones as you progress through, and yours said 4-week timeline. And so I changed mine to a 2-week timeline, because I wanted to say, okay, well, for the first 2 weeks, there are some important things I think that a new hire needs to go through. And we try to accomplish it in those couple of weeks before we sort of turn them loose and, on their own. Because I think like at a certain point, people learn differently. Some people like to watch, some people like to read, and some people just like to do. And so I don't want to, and yours was a lot like all of that and went into more detail. And actually you have way more, I guess there's more moving parts. And so your shop is more complicated, but I changed it and I used it. And for the first time, I actually had like this itinerary week 1, week 2, and it was so cool. Like it worked. Nice. Everybody was like, wow, we love this thing, and I changed it to our shop. Everything's pretty, there's a few similarities, but it's for our shop. And I'm going to use it from now on. And I'm going to make one for every department, whether you're a press a press assistant, let's say, or embroidery or wherever you go. Isn't it cool to have like a 2-week like expectation, like what you're going to be going through? Sort of like when I always lost mine, but it seems like whenever in class, they give you, hey, here's your syllabus. This is we're going to be doing. And I'm like, I don't know. And after like the first hour, mine was gone. And the teacher would be like, what isn't it's in your syllabus? That's what we're doing today. I'm like, I don't know. Like, what do you mean syllabus? But like this thing right here was gold and I love it. And so thank you so much.
I'm glad that it worked. I cannot take credit for that. Phil, who is our director of operations here, he made it. Phil is absolutely amazing. And we talked of just saying like, hey, let's put together something like that. It's just so valuable to find staff and employees who can create and do these things where they're putting items in, these different things into action. And he set that up based on his knowledge of the company. And, I thought that sharing it with you would be helpful because he actually went through everything for that specific role. So that was all the stuff that he had learned. And, there came a point in time where he's like, I need help, I need help doing all of these things. So when, we said, create something so that the next person who comes in, they have the knowledge of what you've learned into that role. And he made it. And I mean, honestly, like, just incredible having, staff. And I'm sure you guys have the same thing where there's just these employees who can go above and beyond, and being able to create systems and things like that. It's just so valuable to have that as a, have those people as part of our team to be able to not have to rely on somebody like us or like, because as a business owner, I mean, man, I feel like we're always putting systems into place and like putting these parameters on things. They're trying to like weigh what's the positive and negative. And like, you have sleepless nights where you're sitting there going like, how are we going to get this done? Or like things like that. So having that portion come out and not have to worry about those things, it's just been like a weight off of our shoulders a little bit.
I mean, I want to make a good impression. When somebody starts here, I don't want them to go home after their first day or first week or something and say to their husband or their wife or their friends, like, man, that company's a fucking mess. Like, I don't know. I got there and the training is shit. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. And so this kind of sets the tone. And we also, something Joanne did, which is really cool, is with one of the girls, she just went out to lunch with her, because they're going to be working together, and beyond just being formal and saying, okay, here's how we do this, this, and this, get to know that person a little bit and so she took her out to lunch, which I thought was really cool. So, Phil, thanks, bud. You really helped our shop, and I'm going to create one of these for every department, and I don't know. I highly recommend it. It's awesome. And if you want one, Max,
it's $10, right? $10 per use.
That's right.
I mean, it's not always been like that. Like, I'm sure in the past, we've had these things, like we've had staff come in, and it was before, like, when you're starting a business up, you don't really know like what you're doing. I mean, like, you learn on the job, right? Like, we've all been there, and we've kind of like, you grow from a small company and you start to learn, like, when you have more personalities and employees, like there's different things you have to do. Like, what may have been, what may have like been something that could have like been okay at the starting of the shop when you have 3 people is not okay when you have 15, the way that things are in place. And we've had, employees who've had to move on because they were maybe stuck in the past and doing things the way that it wasn't okay the way we were doing it with more staff as you kind of grow. But we've had staff come in and we didn't have any of these things like in the past. And they would start at the QC position, and we'd hire them, and they come in at 8, and then they went to lunch, and then at lunch, somebody would be like, "Hey, the new hire didn't come back from lunch." And then you got a call and they're like, "I can't do this job." And so they're there from 8 to noon, and then they quit because like you don't really like set them up for success. And I think we just learn as business owners how to present some of these jobs sometimes. And maybe that's so healthcare or, dental or days off, whatever it is. Like you want to set that up ahead of time, saying like, these are the benefits of the job. Like sometimes it's going to suck. Sometimes it's going to be great. You're going to have these benefits. This is, so you kind of have to balance that out. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to develop different documents for everything that we do. Like I send out a formal job proposal, that explains and describes what they're going to do. Just like you said, they came in and they quit at, halftime because they, at lunch and they didn't want to come back. And I mean, because we've had that same thing happen. And when we started, we were we didn't know what we were doing, just like you said. And all of a sudden you start maturing along the way and you add people. And eventually, I think something that really hit home was a couple of things happened, and I had to consult an attorney, and they said, "Well, where's your employee handbook? Where does it say? Where are the rules?" And I'm like, "What do you mean employee handbook? I don't have an employee handbook. Nobody gets a, employee handbook." So the first employee handbook I had was I created through ADP. It was called Employee Handbook Wizard. And it's like this general wizard. And I think it probably did more damage than it did good. And so we had that for a few months, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, this isn't going to work." And so then I had to pay. I want to say it was like $8,000. Somebody made one specific for us over the course of like 2 months, back and forth, trying to get it just right. Because you have an employee handbook. If you sometimes saying too much is actually wrong. Less is more in certain instances. And so, and that's worth a lot of money. You know what I mean? And back then, especially, I was like $8,000. Like it was killer. Like I couldn't imagine spending that much on an employee handbook, but it was actually going to cost me more if I didn't have it,
Right. If you get sued or something happens on the job or like heaven forbid, it costs, $100,000 down the line. So $8,000 for an investment is definitely worth it in the long run. Do you guys use ADP? We use Gusto. And I feel like that's been a good help in paying staff and making sure like everybody's up to date. They have those little surveys of like, and not everybody does them, but it like will tell you about like company happiness, or things that you can try to improve on. And then you can actually attach those handbooks or guides or things that you need to update, and it will send everything out, and then they can sign it within Gusto. So like they'll go in and log in, and like, if you had to update an office rule or something like that, like people can take notice saying like, "Hey, this is the new rule for, when everybody had to wear masks in the shop or whatever," like they had to sign off on that stuff. So. Oh,
that's cool. Yeah. I mean, I've heard great things about Gusto. We use ADP, and it also tracks time, also processes workman's comp per pay period, everything like that. Like we have everything tied into ADP. That's only because we started with it. I mean, I never heard of Gusto back then. I wish. It sounds really cool because I know you can do a few different things with it. Like I can run everything on my phone. Like if I'm traveling or whatever, I can run payroll on my phone, which is really convenient. But I think you can do a lot more with Gusto.
I think they're all pretty similar. I don't know, at the end of the day. Yeah.
You know what's really similar is our process here. I mean, it's super high tech, but when we come up with a new rule for staff, when I do this and I go new rule, that's how it's official. So that's our system here. So if everybody sees me go new rule, then they know, shit's serious and it's written in stone. So
you got some guy chiseling it into a wall. He's like,
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not such a bad thing. Honestly, I mean,
Post-it note, right? Post-it note for you?
Post-it notes for sure.
I had a boss one time who would not let me write on Post-it notes, and I had him on my computer on the bottom of the screen. Ripped them all off my screen, and he told me no Post-it notes. It's just basically berated me for Post-it notes.
What's really funny?
I'm scared to use them to this day.
I still use Post-it notes, and you can see them hanging on the bottom of my monitor. But also, like, I use stickies on my Mac. So, like, not only are there actual physical Post-it notes on my computer, but if you go to my desktop, it's just covered in sticky notes, like with actual stickies on my thing. So
I have PTSD for that, and I cannot use Post-it notes because I think that he's going to come and like walk up the stairs into the office and like toss my computer off and be like, yeah, no
it's just so rewarding to like put a note down on a sticky note and then put it on your monitor and then do it like the next day and then pull it off, crumple it up, throw it in the recycling bin. So it's like the actual.
If it works, it works. You know. Yeah. I don't think there's any like. There's all these systems for different people. Like, oh, you have to do things this way to get things done, and it's like. I mean, you can help organize the way you do it, but like, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to organize how you get things done.
Yeah. It's just like, I have like simple brain, I feel like, and I don't know. I listen to people like you guys talking about using these systems and like, it sounds like, oh yeah, that's definitely the way to go. And once you get to a certain point with a certain amount of employees or whatever, but then I think of the way I do things. And I'm like, fuck, like I basically like exactly like have a notebook or something for certain things, or, you know, I just do things a different way. And I mean, it totally works for me, but it's not going to work for you guys the same way. So
yeah, it's just when you have a lot of people who have to communicate on the same chain of things. And right. I'm similar to you where I have everything in my head and I have that issue of communicating it out. Sometimes like even with my wife or whatever, like it's just like that. Like, oh, I know it's up here, but somebody else will say, well, I can't read your mind. I don't know what you're thinking or how you're going to do it or how you're going to take care of it. So like, you know, to put it out like on Monday or something like that on monday.com, like to have these different things and threads and places to communicate. I think it just helps everybody to be on the same page versus like an email back and forth. So
I just kind of like if there's a new thing or a new rule or a new anything with any staff member, I was just like, I just walk up to them. I walk up to him and we just have a conversation. You know what I mean? Like I like to talk through the whole thing.
Yeah.
That move is sort of like that dance move that you got on video that your mom has on video. That would actually, what's that stand for at your shop? What's that mean?
This?
Yeah. What's that?
Get
mean?
Fucking party time.
I have a listener question.
I have like 900 since last week.
All right. Well, then we're going to have to take a potty break and get something else to drink because this is going to be a while.
All right. Go ahead.
No, I have one. And you're right. There are several more, but we can save them. We don't have to do them all right now.
No, but I want to do a couple.
Okay. You want to go first?
Do you want to go take a piss?
No. Max, do you?
I'm good. I've got cold brew and I've got my water. I'm going to hold it. I'm going to see. I'm going to play the game. I don't know if you guys ever do that, but like see how long you can go without having to go to the bathroom, you know?
Well, you could always piss in that bottle if you had to.
I'm wearing a diaper today. We call it Diaper Friday. So It's a joke around the shop. You don't get to go to the bathroom. So
it's a joke, you know, that's what we do. That's why that dude's wearing a yellow shirt so he can piss himself and you can't tell.
That's in our employee handbook is on Fridays. There's no restroom breaks. So.
We're talking about maximizing time. And if you wear, you don't go to the bathroom, you're saving time. I don't want to pay for somebody to have to go to the bathroom.
You just have to use that health insurance for all the fucking groin rashes you guys have.
So are you still looking for a question or do you want me to go?
Yeah, I'm looking. Calm down. Okay. My phone is full of all kinds of dank memes. I got to get by them to get to these questions.
I bet.
Okay. All right. You go ahead because you got one at the ready and then I'll find the next one.
Okay. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
This one is from Gorilla Joe. And he asks, when you have a change on press and deviate from the mock-up, work order, screen info, what is the process you take to change all the said platforms so that everything is correct if a reorder happens?
We have it to where basically we are notating everything on the mock-up form. So all the info's on there and you can edit it later. But what we do is if a press operator has to change a Pantone color or change like notation of how many flashes or double stroke on something or had to change a mesh or something, we put it on the calendar, like with that job, like, cause it's the job and the calendar has like all the info for that job anyway. That way, when we reorder, they know to pull from the last like they search on the calendar from the last time we did that job, pull all the new notes, put it on the new job, or just go back and edit and redo the Pantones or whatever on that work order.
Thought for sure you're going to say put it on a Post-it note, but
no. The notes are just for me, just so everybody's clear. My shop doesn't run on Post-it notes. We're not fucking handing them out. I'm not doing this with Post-it notes. They're just my personal brain at my desk. But that's how we do it. I don't know how you guys do it.
Max, how do you do it?
We'll notate it within the Printavo system. And I think that there's going to be a change. Then it will go back to art department. The new CADs will be uploaded. I think so that the next time if we have to recreate the PO, it's there and ready to go.
All right, give me a second. I got to do a real work thing. I'll be right back. Continue with questions.
Okay. So we're pretty similar. Only there's one thing that I think is important, because we would say like, okay, well, let's update the proof. Let's update Monday. Let's update everything, right? Where the truth is, because our truth, which I don't like, but our truth is in QuickBooks. I want to have it somewhere else. I think QuickBooks is the wrong place to have the truth. Maybe Monday is the place it should be, like everything. So if there's a reorder, where are we going to look up the info? Are we going to QuickBooks? Are we going to Monday? Where are we going? And so I think our truth needs to be in Monday, honestly. But the one rule I put in, because we said that we were going to update things, and then sometimes that didn't happen. And so the rule I put in is that the press operator can't begin the job until he receives a new proof, like an updated proof. Which is in our shop anyway, it's convenient because the designers are here. It's not like we have to send out or whatever, for it. So anyway, that just makes certain that we do update it, because we ran into this situation with them, which I'm sure everyone has, where you said you're going to update it, didn't update it, it reordered, and it's fucked up.
It happens. Even if you have all of the systems in place to catch something, like that for the next setup, I just think sometimes you're going to hit that snag where maybe one thing wasn't updated, or the Pantone was not, whatever it is. Like there's, changing, one screen's color, whatever it is. Like there's always going to be some sort of hiccup, and as long as you have some sort of system in place, it will help. But I don't think it's going to be completely foolproof. Yeah,
ours isn't foolproof either. It still happens where we updated it, but it got updated maybe wrong, which is crazy. And then you're standing there thinking, maybe you printed it a few months back and you're like, oh, how did I print that? Like, which I know we changed the color. And so it's kind of there, but it's all the details aren't. And, I hate that. We've actually had to tear something off press and call the customer and ask for a shirt from the last order to see it and everything like that. It's no fun. For sure.
I think the biggest thing with a lot of that is just having the correct Pantones jotted down. Because I know there's a lot of shops out there that just are like mixing things by eye, and then when they have to reprint it, they're like, "Oh yeah, that we're supposed to make purple." And they're like, "Well, what fucking purple are we using?" So it's like to actually have, okay, this is the Pantones we use for this whole thing, or this is the bucket color we use for the whole thing. Then next time to use that same one.
All right. Dylan, did you find
no
what you were looking for?
I had to sign some paychecks. That's what I had to jump up and do.
Well, if you had Gusto or ADP, there's no such thing as signing paychecks.
A direct deposit, baby.
Just saying. Just saying.
If you pay thousands of dollars for Gusto, you know what I paid? I paid for a fucking pen, and I just go like this, and it's done and over with.
Well, you paid in time, but as we all know, time is a construct.
Right. It's not real.
It's not real.
Are you even real? This might be the Truman Show, and you guys are fucking paid actors that I have to sit here and talk to.
We could be.
Yeah. See, I don't know.
Absolutely be actors.
Right.
I'm in LA, so right.
Yeah. See, they got lazy now. They're not even sending actors out anywhere else. They come directly from LA.
Or is he in LA? He's got some fake background with fake palm trees. We don't even know where he is, really.
It's not even a real office.
He's in a bunker somewhere.
I could be in a bunker. Absolutely.
Let's see. Hold on. A lot of these are the ones from last week. I'm not very organized right now. I wasn't ready for this.
Are you guys using shop management systems to run orders?
Everybody knows my answer. I have my own shop management. I have gone through and I'm about to start using Printavo, so I will be doing that. But I'm still using Google for most everything. Andy, you're using Monday?
Monday?
Yeah. Yep. We're using Monday to run for our scheduler. But also, like I said, most of the truth lives in there. If we ever need to look something up, we used to use Trello before that, but we kind of ran it to its limit and we wanted something a little more robust. And so Monday was definitely that. And we overbuilt Monday and had to back it down because when COVID happened, and I want to build it back up a little bit to include and to track more data even. But we just haven't had the time. It's just one of those things, or the staff, you know what I mean, to sit down and do that.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't think there's any one of them right now is perfect. I think Printavo does a good job of being able to upload CADs, get people to approve. And I know they're updating their scheduling system, but I think you have to use it in conjunction with something like Monday or another system to kind of connect everything. Because I think scheduling for screens or different items within your systems, I think that gets a little convoluted in any of the shop management software right now. So I agree. Printavo is good for the production schedule and for clients to see an invoice to approve things and see everything in one place. But Monday is like really like a tool behind that to be able to use it in-house.
You know, let's say for like, I don't know what the salary would be. Let's call it 60K or anywhere between, well, it doesn't matter, whatever. Let's say it was 60K. Would it be worth paying somebody 60K to be in your shop to collect data on things, to find out efficiencies? And would they save you that 60 or more than that? Like I was listening to the Printavo podcast with Bruce and Steven and Matt actually. And they talked about how they were just talking with Corey at Floodway and how he came up with the idea of tracking screen usage because, you know, when you order, go to reorder screens or screen meshes, or maybe you stretch your own, but how do you know what mesh to order? But let's say I needed to get 100 screens. What do I mesh them at? Do I make them all 158s or all 230s? What do I need? And so most of the time it's just, it's a pretty good guess, but it's just still a guess. Well, I guess what he's doing is just watching usage for over the, let's say the course of a month. Every time you use or you burn a 230 or every time you burn a 180 or whatever it is, you just put a tally mark down, you know, and you total it at the end and you say, well, during 30 days, this is what I used, and I used 30% this mesh and 30, you know what I mean? So you would actually know. And so then you can go and order stuff. So if you had this person that could track that and do that for like all different spots in your shop, you know, what kind of savings would you have? I mean, it could be incredible, right? It could be, in other words, they could save you tenfold. Who knows, you know? And so it's just finding that person that can do that. And we're doing that. I talked to Kyle. I was like, man, this is like a really rad idea. Let's do that. We can do that here. We can kind of pull that off. We have a dry erase board in our screen room, and so we're going to pull that off without hiring a person, you know? But in most instances, like you were just so busy, you really can't sit there and track stuff. And well, Monday is one of those spots you could do that with, is you could, you know, track different data. They have timers, they have all kinds of stuff you can, you know, plug into it. And so I just wish we had that person and it'd probably be worth it. Do you think?
I have a question for you both, and it's going to be a difficult question. And I'm kind of on one side of the fence. I feel like, especially with like my simple brain or whatever, but it's kind of like me and Ryan Kasparian was here last week and we were having this conversation, and, you know, he comes in here just as a buddy to hang out for the day, but we obviously got into like talking about like efficiencies and all this other stuff. But it's like, when do you stop? Like, I run my shop a certain way and I feel like my staff is very chill. And yeah, there's stressful times because we get really busy or whatever. But like, when do you stop trying to make everything like super, super efficient to the point of like they don't get time to like clear their head or like move around? And it's like one of the questions we had was talking about getting just a dude to stage every job, which makes a ton of sense and would save us a lot of time in the summertime, which is fine. Like making sure pre-press is totally done and making sure all the inks are there on a cart, job cart and everything. But then realistically, when that's said and done correctly, you are looking at it as a business owner of like, okay, there's going to be X amount more jobs done today because the guy on press can literally print a job, take it off the cart, walk over like 3 steps or whatever, grab a new job cart, set a new thing up and go right back to printing. But then that guy on press is just like, doesn't get to like walk across the shop or like take a second to like relax before he goes into the next job. It's kind of like he's just like pumping stuff all day long. I feel like you get to a point where you're just like making up all these like super efficiencies for everything to where the people that you have there are almost like hybrid human android robots that are just like, this is my task. I do my task. I have my circle. I can't leave my circle. I just do this thing all day long. And it's kind of like, to me, it's like, I want to make things more efficient to get more jobs done, but I also don't want my employees to be like, what the fuck? Like, this sucks. So I don't know if that's necessarily a question or just like, how do you guys feel about that? You know what I mean? Like certain things I look at and I'm like, yeah, I want to grow my shop and make things more efficient, but I don't know if I want to go so far to where everybody hates working.
I think that would be like what you're saying is like maybe set up for like a really big contract shop or something like that, you know, like because you're having to constantly keep track of how many garments you're getting out per hour, and like pennies make, you know, a difference when you're taking these jobs on are so big. But for you guys and for us and Andy, I don't know how much contract work you're doing right now, but by kind of probably charging a little bit more, you have a little bit more of that buffer to not always be like, hey, we have to do everything down to this specific time. And I know that, you know, this job's going to take X amount of time. And I think the efficiencies that would be worth it are like forecasting out like, hey, we're doing this many black 3001s right now. What can we pre-order to save on cost in the long run? Like, if we did that sort of analytics, I think would be really, really incredible to be able to like draw from and say like, you know, maybe we can keep some of these in stock because I know that somebody's going to order, you know, something close to this amount by seeing what we've done in the last year or forecasting it that way. But you know, the contract shops, I don't know if you've like been into any of those big ones, but they work in pods. So like there's 2 presses or 3 presses together. And then there's 2 presses that are running, and then the third one's being set up while the other 2 are running. And then when one opens up, that crew goes over to the third press and they just keep printing based on the new setup. And then the second one gets taken down and reset up. So there's just a constant flow. So like it just is, it's so insane how efficient, like what they're trying to get done. And I don't think any of our shops are ever like going to strive to do something like that, just based off conversations that I've heard you guys have had and what we do in house. It's just not who we are, but I mean, there's definitely things that can help.
Right. And I agree with you. Like there's definitely things like if I can find a way to make things more efficient on the back end or save money, then it's just more money I can put back into my employees. You know what I mean? Like give them a raise, or we're making more money and we're churning out enough jobs to where things are doing really well. Like that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is like I had that conversation with Ryan and it was kind of like, yeah, I feel like I do need that guy, but I don't need him to be as intense as what we were saying of like, he was like, I would literally like draw a circle and be like, okay, this is like your zone. That was kind of like a whole conversation about it. I don't want to take it out of context, but it was kind of like, I just want that jump around guy in the shop to be like, you know, 3 presses are running. And then I want that guy the day before to make sure all the inks are mixed and the screens are ready and everything's prepped. So where like Randy on press shouldn't finish a job and then have to walk over to dried screens in a rack and like tape them himself. And then find out he has a 12 color, but 4 of the colors aren't mixed yet. And then he has to mix. And then the press is sitting idle for like 45 minutes. You know what I mean? Like that's where it was kind of like, get a guy in here to make sure that the downtime on press goes from like, you know, 45 minutes to 5-10 minutes.
Yeah. I think it's, I think it's just finding a balance. I think it's like everything. I think, moderation is where I think you win. Like I like French fries, but if all I ate were French fries, that'd probably be bad. I probably should just have them every once in a while. But I think that every shop is different. I think that in your example, look, I mean, if we're running 2 presses on a dryer, and one of the presses is in your example, they're waiting on shirts to be stacked, on a cart. And that takes 20 minutes and they have to wait 3 times a day. And that's an hour. And now all of a sudden it's 5 o'clock and they have to stay late. Well, that fucking sucks. And so wouldn't it be cool if they were more efficient in getting those carts? The carts were already ready. Right. And you're right. They didn't get a 20-minute break 3 times, but they're allowed to take breaks. They can walk over to the break room and grab some chips or grab some French fries or grab a water or a Coke or whatever.
You have French fries in your break room?
Yeah, nonstop. We have fries served up.
Did you hired somebody just for that? You'd like, they're just like, fries. Fries are up.
Right.
Fries are up.
Yeah. You want to have a shock to your system. Eat a French fry. It's like a bomb that goes off. But I mean, I love French fries.
I don't know how French
fries
got to be such a
that's not my
part
point.
Of this conversation.
my point is that wouldn't it be cool if you had somebody that's tracking where your inefficiencies are, and then you could make up some of that time, not every single second, and don't freak out and stress out when it doesn't go right, because things don't go right sometimes. Still, you're in a relaxed, chill, your vibe can be your vibe. But what if you saved an hour a day? And you didn't have to stay late.
I fully agree. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying is that he was saying if you get a person at the end of the dryer or whatever, quality control, to not necessarily be like an Overwatch, but to write down like how long did it take them to set that job up? How long did it take them to mix the inks? How long did it take them to like get a strike off or whatever? And then at the end of a certain amount of time, take an average of all that thing and be like, okay, well, out of an 8-hour day, they really only printed like 4 or 5 hours of it. And then the other 3 hours or whatever was set up and tear down. And it's like, how do we get 2 more hours out of that in actual production or whatever to cut down on those times? That's kind of where I'm at right now, is I just feel like there's certain things like I said, we're pretty lax, but I want to make sure that we're getting as much stuff out as we can a day with keeping some of that lax vibe of, we're just printing, it's just t-shirts, we're having fun, we're doing what we got to do, getting jobs out, but people aren't stressed out and we're not like at the end of our turnaround time. And I just want our turnaround to go down a little bit more is what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to get a couple things in there, but I don't really want the culture to change or the feel of printing to change.
What's your turnaround time? Like, what do you guys typically tell a customer who comes in for a standard turnaround time?
About 10 to 15 business days.
Okay, cool. We're right there with you.
Yeah. And
standard is 2 weeks.
We have no issues with that. Like, we rarely have a customer that's like, oh my God, like I can't do that. I can't print with you guys. It's like 10 to 15 business days. That's what we've always been.
Yeah. I used to say 10 days or 10 business days, but people still always ask like, okay, well, how does that compute? So I just say 2 weeks. And, but like you said, that's standard, and we do rush jobs all the time.
Well, that's the thing is if that's how we follow that up is we say it's 10 to 15 business days. And then I immediately say, cause I know they're going to ask, as I say, our turnaround's 10 to 15 business days, but if you need it sooner, let me know and we'll see what we can do. Like if I can squeeze it in the schedule, no problem. Like if you're like, oh, I need 100 shirts, one color, I'll just be like, and they need it in 7 days, I'll just do it in 7 days. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, we can do that super quick. But if somebody's like, oh, I need 200 shirts, 5 color front, 12 color back, and I need it in 7 days, I'm going to be like, all right, well, that's a rush then. Like, they're definitely
going to charge them, you mean?
Like, right. Like, I have to move someone else's jobs out of the way, or we have to pay somebody to stay like 2 hours late or something. So,
I think you have to just get it set up. I think Brett from Printed Threads had like a good alternative to saying there's a rush, but it's like a preferred pickup date. And basically like, hey, if you have a preferred pickup date, you need to pay an additional X amount to pick it up by that specific date. So, I think if you under promise and over deliver, like probably most of your jobs are going to be 10 days. But if you say 10 to 15, everybody's like, hey, great, I got it before 15 days is up. And it makes you sound like, oh, we got it done earlier.
That's pretty much how we operate is we say 10 to 15. And a lot of times things might go out like in 6 business days or, 8 business days or whatever. And then when they get it, they're getting it early and they're like, oh, fuck yeah.
I'm going to I think I'm going to change it to 30 days. We're going to create, like you said earlier, Max, you said if there were 2,000 people coming, you'd only do 1,500 shirts to create demand. So it would be sort of like, I think I've said this before, like if you were to get a tattoo and it's like, hey, I'm going to go in and get a tattoo there. And like, oh, we don't have any appointments. Come on in. But if there was a tattoo artist that you had to book out like 3 months from now, then, well, they must be good. So maybe we should be 30 days. Maybe that's the answer. I know everybody here would be happy.
Just give you extra time on every job. It's what brands will do with their drops. You know what I mean? They create a demand, saying like, oh, it's a limited amount of items. And then like everybody has to go, I got to buy this item now. I don't have any time to do it. So
right.
Kind of the same idea where like you give them that timeline and, makes it seem like you're busy.
I feel like we definitely have customers that would be okay with that. Like we have certain ones that come to us because they want to work with us and they know what we're going to print. They're like, all right, well, wait, we had that before we got the gauntlet. Like we had people that came to us with like a 13, 14 color print or whatever. And it was before we got it. And we're like, well, we'll have this press in like, like 2 months. They're like, all right, we'll wait. And it was just like, I was like, really? Like, you're going to wait? That's fucking super awesome. But okay, cool. But like I said, I feel like it's just clientele. Like if I had someone random off the street that needed shirts for a birthday party, they're not going to wait. They want it tomorrow. We still get that all the time. We get people that call and they're like, I want to place an order. And they're like, all right, can I pick this up in like 3 days? And you're like, no. We had a guy, hopefully he doesn't fucking listen to this, but we had a guy the other day that is from the city that was like, hey, I've got 4 new designs. Like I already bought the shirts, and which to me, I was just like, I don't want to fucking do this. And he's like, is it cool if I drive them up and I'll get a hotel room and I'll stay there that night? And can I like pick them up the next day and take them home? And it was like a 4-color oversized front, both sleeves, neck tags, like front, back on like 4 designs. It's like, no fucking way. Like we're not pulling a 24-hour turnaround for this guy. So he can like, on shirts that we're not even ordering, like he's just bringing us some random comfort color mixes of a bunch of different things, and we're supposed to produce it overnight and give it back to him the next day.
Yeah, we just changed our customer supplied item policy to
0.
Well,
no,
that's what we basically said. It's like, I don't want to do that shit anymore. Like, stop bringing us random shit. Like, if you want to order, we'll order it for you.
Yeah, we changed it to we have to be able to buy it from SNS or something like that, like at wholesale. Because I've been burned, but from like the last time, because somebody brought in some Nike things they got at the Nike outlet here or something, and they shrunk. And I was like, how did we know that was going to even happen? And now we have to rebuy them at full retail. This sucks. And so, yeah, we changed it. But it's probably a good idea to change to completely, except for contract work, obviously, but to say we don't print on anything, that you bring in. The only bonus about printing on something that, like if somebody were to bring in Gildans or Bellas or something, is that if there's a hole in one of them, that's not our problem.
Dude,
like
we've had people that are like, can I bring you in shirts? And they're fucking like covered in dog hair. Or right. It's like missing a whole size, and then we print them and give them to them. And they're like, where's the mediums? And I'm like, what do you mean? There's no fucking mediums in the order. And it's like, you have no way to prove that. They're just like, oh, I dropped shit off in a fucking garbage and wanted you to print them.
We used to do one for ESPN's Earth Day out here, and they would host this whole like Earth Day event. But the whole point was that people could bring in their own shirts and reprint them. And I don't have an issue with that. I think that's cool that they're doing that for their event, so that everybody's got their own branded shirt that's specific to like something they've worn in the past. The problem was half of them, weren't washed, and they'd go through the dryer, and then the shop just smells like sweat.
Horrible.
Just like this awful odor that like comes through. And so that's the other issue too, is like, you'll never know like if they've been washed or there's some issue that, like you said, Andy, like they may shrink. You just don't know the garments to test it. So,
or they're saturated in fabric softener.
yeah, there's just so many issues. We've actually changed a lot of like those Nike or Adidas garments to doing transfers on them. We won't even print at this point. We'll just do super color transfers on it, and they end up laying super flat. You don't have to worry about like figuring out like the underbase to make it, not migrate or anything like that. So like we've taken a lot of the print business that we would have gone on those things and like done any sort of transfers.
That's kind of what we've done with a couple items is we just started saying we're going to do transfers on them. Like we get a lot of these like bomber jackets or like windbreakers or stuff. And I'm just like, nope, it's all going to be transfers now. Like I'm not even going to attempt to print on them.
Yeah. And you can sell it to the client and be like, look, we could do a 1 or 2 color on this as a jacket, but if you use these water-based transfers, it's going to lay flatter. Yeah. You can do a full color transfer and they half the time they don't give a shit. They don't care how the image gets onto the garment.
Right.
Like,
they just want
as a screen printer, we're like, oh, we can make it screen printed, but like, they just want something that looks good for their team or whoever they're getting it for. And if it looks better with a transfer, there's no ego in that,
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Dylan, can we do questions from Max?
Yeah, you don't have to ask me. You have to ask him.
All right. Yeah, that's true. Well, I didn't know if you had anything else.
Do you want me to ask him? Hey, Max, is it okay if you ask us questions now?
Let's do it.
I was trying to be polite because I didn't know if you finally found a listener question, but I'm running out of time, so it's up to you. If you found one that you want to ask.
Nope, I want to hear Max's questions.
Okay.
All right. So
me too.
Have you guys ever done a live event? And if so, like what would have been your barriers or your hiccups or things that you've seen have been an issue? Like where do you get into trouble when you're on site at an event?
We do quite a bit of it, but ours is definitely the opposite model of yours. Ours is we're going as upstate. We have a branded tent, everything. We're selling at most of them. We do some where they pre-order, but most of them are events that are like exclusive events. Every shirt we print is like 4 single color prints, and they're all specific for that event. And when they're gone, they're gone. And in the beginning, we've done it for years now. And in the beginning, we were like asking the person what their name was, writing it on a clipboard. And then when the order came through, we would like shout out the person's name. That was fucking horrible. So what we ended up doing is we ended up making these like business cards that we could write on, and we would have every customer that ordered fill out a card. And then we would take that card after they paid and hand it to the press guy, and he would print the shirt that was on the card and then run the shirt through the little D100 dryer with the card on it. So when it came out, the guy at the end of the dryer grabbed it, put it in a bag, taped the card to the top of the bag, and then put it on a table. And then those people would just come over and find their card on the table with the bag and take it. So there was no ever shouting out a customer. It was just basically transaction, printed, table, done.
Gotcha.
And to us, that was really efficient. And that like went from things being like hairy and like stressful to zero stress and just taking orders one right after another. So, but then COVID happened and we haven't live printed in a year and a half. And we actually just scheduled one. We were doing it where we had 2 crews like almost every weekend, like someone going one way and another crew going another way. But for us, it was just like weekend side cash. It wasn't really like anything we put really back into the business. I just let the employees kind of like share the money.
It's a good bonus for staff in-house too. Like,
yeah,
to have that as an option, because we'll do like a ton of like local, like smaller, like parties and mitzvahs and stuff like that around here. And it works out great. If they want an extra day of work, they'll be like, hey, I would love to do the one on Saturday or whatever. And then the staff can go take care of it and get an extra,
right. Well, like I said,
amount for the checks.
Our way of doing it of like taking cash is like more risky. You know what I mean? Because we never know how many we're going to sell. Like we could go to an event, like we kind of have it to where we figured out it's almost 10% of the crowd orders. So if they're like, okay, you're going to be the only vendor and there's, 10,000 people or whatever, we know we're going to sell like 1,000 or more shirts or whatever. So they'll go to the event. And what I do is like, if they're going to the event, just tally at the end, like how many shirts sold. And, I say, okay, if it's take $3 a shirt and then tally that up at the end. And that's Upstate's cut to just replenish the shirts. It's like no profit. And then whatever they made at the event, like I let them split. Like that's literally how we do it. Like I don't want the money back to the business. It's just a big bonus for them to be like, hey, you took the risk. You guys made the designs. You went and printed them all. You worked on a Saturday. It's yours, you know, and that's why I said for me, it's huge for my employees because they fight over live prints. They're like, no, I'm going to this one, or, you know, whatever, or like seasoned crew gets to go to this one. And then these other 3 get to go to this one. But like I said, for us, it's just like a side thing.
That's good. I think it's a good add-on. I think it's a good add-on for businesses if you can get it, if you can do it correctly, you know?
Yeah. But I've never tried to do like a one to go somewhere or do a big launch or, you know, travel anywhere crazy. Like we literally just do like New York, PA, like anything that's within like 5 hours or something we'll go to.
Well, we've tried it, but only on one event that we did for a few years in a row. And I think we got it figured out that we're not very good at it. And the only way I would do it is if I did it like with your model and if going forward in the future, because, you know, I want to be able to have a guaranteed success instead of risking, you know, a crew of 4, you know, 6 hours or whatever. The load in was awful. Everything was tough about it. And so I think if I did that again or anything like that again, the perfect thing to do is to say, yeah, sure, we can do that. And it's more of like an activation. It's more of a, you know, it's something that would be good for your brand or your event or whatever as an add-on. And here's our price. I really like that idea because collecting money and doing all that stuff was a total hassle. And anyway, I've considered doing it, but we're not staffed yet for it. That's for sure. You know, I consider doing it again now that it's opened back up, but we're just not staffed for it.
We've done so many where we got burned hard. Like it's definitely a gamble. Like the first 2 years we did it was like, we took every event that came our way, but that's where we learned a lot from, you know what I mean? We do an event and we're like, oh fuck, let's go do a festival or something that's like got like 100 vendors. It's like, those are the worst because you never sell anything because there's 100 other people trying to sell shit. So it was like, okay, we learned that lesson. Like now let's only do events where like it's us and food. Like that's it. Like we're the only place you can shop or like buy a shirt specifically for that event. So it's like that knocked off like a ton of options. And now it's like so many years now, it's like, okay, we're very selective of like, it has to be at least this many people. It has to be like this many or less vendors. And, you know, we get these guarantees as far as like you're gonna out of your cut is gonna be like gas and food for 4 people for this many hours or whatever. And then other than that, it's a gamble still of like, we don't know how many shirts we're gonna sell, but we know roughly with these numbers we should sell this many shirts to make it worth it. So it's a little more calculated now, but in the beginning it was just like, fuck it, let's try it and see what happens. Some events we would go to and we'd sell like 13 shirts for like a Saturday.
Yeah, and it's just not worth it to set everything up at that point, you know?
Right.
It's just
but then
a waste of time.
But then you go do an event where you sell like, you know, fucking 2,000 shirts or whatever, and we're like raining cash or whatever for like a Saturday, and everyone's stoked because they went home with, you know, a couple grand in their pocket.
You're like a dispensary. You're buying warehouses. You're buying warehouses not to just for investment properties, but to put your cash in.
Well, the biggest part of it is a lot of the events we were doing were like fun parties. You know what I mean? We would go to an event that was just like all you can eat food, barbecue, and there's like bands playing and there's like people that want to hang out with us. They're drinking, having fun. So we were just like another place that like people would come up to and we would bullshit all day. We would have food. There's a band right there. And then we're also making cash too. So it was like, it was fun. So that's why it kind of was like, didn't really feel like work unless you were doing an event that was like a swim championship or something where you're just standing next to a hot pool. Like those ones suck, but like they make good money.
I mean, that's a business model that people can do. I think it would be an uninteresting, like, it's just not interesting to be on site at those things, you know, and like, it just doesn't have like a fun factor to it. So it totally makes sense. You know, I think, Andy, if you do it, you can pitch it to clients more as a catering model. So like when you hire catering for, you know, a wedding or for a specific party, you're pitching it to them as a per head cost. So when you come to an event, hey, we'll do it. It's going to be X amount per head. You have to pre-guarantee that we're going to do this amount of people, because when you're catering at an event and you're bringing all the food, you're bringing in the staff to make the food, you're buying the supplies for the food, and you're doing all the things on the back end to prep to be on site for the event. And a lot of people don't understand that, but if you kind of explain that to the client, hey, these are all the back end steps that go into being on site at the event. This is why we had to charge the total amount. And it's going to cost you, let's say $15 a person for us to be on site to print for 2,000 people. So that's kind of the main like takeaway I can say if you're going to be kind of pitching, events that way.
That's a super smart way to go about it. I never thought about that. It's like, it makes total sense too. Cause like you think of that already. Like if you're, like you said, if you're getting married, like you as the bride and groom are already in your mind settled on the fact that like, if you get food or cake or whatever, it's X amount per head. So like, it's already in everybody's mind of like, that's a norm. So if you just say, yeah, we're like basically catering t-shirts, this is what it's going to be. It makes perfect.
Yeah, it just connects. It connects it.
Right. It makes sense.
It is really smart. And I like how then it's looked at like the perceived value of a t-shirt is a certain amount, but it's much more than a t-shirt, what you're providing. It's adding value to whatever their event is, or just like a caterer adds value to a wedding. And so it's much more than just, a t-shirt. And so that's why $15 makes sense. I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah.
When it's a free t-shirt, people are fucking crazy. When it's something that's free, they don't even give a shit about the brand. They don't care what brand it is. It could be for a porta potty brand, and like you're on site at a porta potty convention. I'm using that as an example of something ridiculous, but you could set up and people would wait in line to get a shirt specifically because it's printed right there. So like it creates a value for the brands that are on site, and if they're trying to promote and bring people to their booth or whatever it may be at an event or something like that, like, and they want to spend the money. To me, it's like if they're handing out shirts on site at an event, what makes more sense for them? They're going to pay a little bit more to bring all of this booth traffic in, or they're going to pay a little bit less to have these shirts sitting on a table, not ready to go. People aren't really, going to come by, but you could have 3,000 people come by your booth or 100 people come by your booth. And so like it creates like that traffic for a lot of these brands, and it helps them kind of connect.
Your team that goes out there that prints live, are they entertainers? Some of them, you know what I mean? Like, are they really good with people?
Like,
and do they like
squeegees?
Yeah, they're like, they're like, hey, they got swag, like, how do they have style, or do you have like just robots printing? I mean, you know what I mean?
I think it's kind of a combo. It's kind of a combo. Like, I feel like on site for live printing, it's almost more beneficial to have somebody who's outgoing and teach them how to do the activity of printing, or like be on site, versus finding a printer who's like a super good printer but can't communicate with people, because on site you're constantly having that communication back and forth. So if they have a better communication skill, you can teach them how to do a single color print. I mean, if you do one day and you're doing 500 shirts over the course of the day, you're going to learn how to do a squeegee. So,
right.
Dylan, you were saying you write things down and whatever. We'll tend not to do that for screen printing. Like we use a flash dryer, and then we get those flash pallets that connect to the flash.
Right.
So what we'll do is we'll actually, they'll come up to the team and say like, hey, I like design 1 and I want to stack it with design 2, or I want to do 1 and 2 on the front and the back. While you're curing the ink underneath the flash dryer, you're able to like talk to them back and forth, and it gives them time to like say like one of the people from the booth you're at, or like at the event or whatever, can come up and be like, hey, this is what we're doing here. Or you can just like shoot the shit with them. And then you get to hand them the shirt, and they take away a hot shirt, and they're like, whoa, I can put this on right now. And they'll feel it and they'll walk away. So like you create like kind of just an interaction for that person the entire way through the process. Versus it being like kind of like, oh, I'm going to write it down. Okay, when's my shirt going to be ready? But there's some instances where that's necessary. Like if you're doing an event that has, a pickup time, or like you have a window of 15 minutes in between, a conference schedule or something like that, where you need to take that information down. But if you can print directly for that attendee or customer or something like that, and give it to them right then and there, it just really good for their mentality as they walk.
There's something that you said, and I don't exactly remember what it was. I think it might've been like maybe it was like the first print hustlers or whatever. I didn't get to go because it was during a bad time or whatever, but I think there was something that you said that stuck with me about live printing that makes me think about like every event I do is that you said something about get rid of the tent and the tables, like be open and in the like near the crowd so they can see what's happening. And that made me think a lot, because there are a lot of times like we're at an event and there's the tent and the press tends to be at the back side of the tent. And then there's like a table with me standing at it. We have people too that come up to the table to buy a shirt that don't even realize there's a screen printing press there. They're like, oh, you're printing them right here. And it's like you said, it's the cool factor of like the dude on press is talking to the person who's getting the shirt and you're handing it directly to them and they get the whole experience. And it's like, that to me,
see it.
Right. That to me, like flipped a switch in my brain to be like, oh fuck, like he's right. Like if we're doing these parties and events, we should be more open, like no tent, or like put the press in the middle of like where people can be around us or whatever. So that definitely opened some stuff for me.
You just got to create a line. Like if you can create a line, then people won't crowd around and you won't have to worry about like, hey, who's next? Like at a bar, like if you walk up to a bar and you're trying to order a drink, sometimes it's impossible to get the attention of a person. But if you have a nice like line, if you create a line, people tend to stay in that line. So if you have a lot of people waiting, it's just imperative to create that line so that you can get through the crowd.
Yeah. So Dylan, you need to print slower. Like if it gets slow when you're at that place where you're only selling 13, like all you guys should just go stand out front, like and form a line, you know, and then maybe one person spin in the press. You know, create
We've
that
done
demand,
that.
right?
We've done that. We've talked about like playing music or having an air horn, or like we'll do like the fucking cheesy like shirts here, get your shirts here, and like spin the press. Just fucking stupid shit, like do cartwheels or something or yell random things. But like I said, now that we've done it for so many years, it's kind of down to a science of like when we get there, we know what we're doing. We tell them where to position us to the event so that it's like better for that like traffic. Like a lot of people think like, oh, I'm going to be by the door. It's like, that's the worst place because people just walk right by you. And then when they walk out, they walk out. It's like, if we're at a beer festival and we're the only people there, it's like, put us literally in with all the beer people. Like if somebody's standing there next to us, just drinking, hanging out, they're going to turn around and be like, oh, I want a shirt. But if you put us in like a hallway, they're going to just walk right by us and then walk by us again. They don't give a fuck. They need that.
Especially if you have to buy it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like if they're standing there in front of you, they're more apt to turn around. Also, you'll sell way more shirts if there's somebody at the front of the table buying something already. Like there's times where there's nobody at the table and nobody wants to be that first person to walk up to the table to buy something. If there's already one or two people in line, you'll see that all of a sudden it's 15 people in line or 20 people in line. But if there's nobody there, nobody wants to be that first person to like mosey over and like look at shirts because they feel pressure. So that's why we try to always position ourselves like in a strategic place rather than just like randomly.
I think it's going to get bigger in the next couple of years, just not just live printing, but like on-site customization. You know, you see it in a lot of stores and things like that right now where you can create your own shirt and, you know, you walk into like, you know, like a Uniqlo, or you can go into like different spaces and you can create these custom items. They'll DTG it in the back and you can grab it, or like you create it on their in-house system and then maybe they'll mail it to you. But I think as we kind of like progress, as you see like DTG is getting big in shops and like these like, you know, like the digital squeegees and things like that so that you can make jobs easier. I think people don't talk about it enough, but I think customization in physical locations is also going to become a lot bigger. And
well, some of the ones that I see you do that are really rad that to me that kind of don't seem the same as like doing an activation is like when you're at like Levi's or something. And like if somebody comes in and buys a denim jacket, when you buy that denim jacket, like Family Industries is going to like embroider something on the back or the left chest or whatever. It's like, to me, that's awesome because it's like, it gets them in to buy the jacket. You know what I mean? Or like launching a new product.
Adidas does a lot of that right now. So they have like all of these different like creator hubs in all their different stores, and they'll hire regional companies to do these different things. You know, we've been in certain locations, like in LA, we'll be in like 3 locations for like 3 months at a time. And we have an embroidery machine and heat presses, things like that. So you can customize your items. But I think it's going to become more widespread. So it's like, it's not a bad place to kind of like see what's out there, you know, because you can take your knowledge of what you're doing in a shop, but, you know, apply it to these other brands and customers. There's a brand, there's another company called YR, and they do a ton of it. And they have these amazing tablets and apps. I mean, they're like these like 20-inch or 25-inch tall tablets, and they have these full applications built out that are really impressive. And they do it for tons of fun. They do Star Wars and SpongeBob and all these different places. They have these cool pop-ups. So I think we'll start seeing it a lot more in the next like 5 years or so.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you have any more questions for us?
What's the hesitation on Printavo? That was my only other question. Like a shop system for you?
For me, the problem is, and I told Bruce this too, is it's like I have a system that works for us and that isn't broken. Gotcha. Like I don't not have a system and I'm scrambling and like shit's like getting messed up or jobs aren't getting done correctly. Like it literally, our system works totally fine. And like I'm going to like Tennessee next week, and it's like I'm okay with leaving for a week and not going to have any issues at the shop because there's systems in place and everything flows the way it should. My problem is that I have a couple things in that process that are just archaic, like payments, writing things down and like handing it off to someone else to add it to the schedule. It's like something like Printavo is like, we send an invoice, they paid it, it automatically adds it. Like the automations in Printavo is what makes me want to use Printavo, is the like shipping and just scheduling things. So that's kind of where I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And like Matt is a really good buddy of mine, and him working at Printavo is definitely what made me like want to use Printavo, because he's a printer and he knows like how this is actually going to work in your shop, not like some software guy being like, well, I can send you these processes. And it's like, Matt's like, no, dude, like you're going to use this chunk of it and the rest of this you don't need. And like, this is how it's going to work in your shop. And this is how it's going to change things. And I was like, fuck yeah. So he like went through the whole thing with me and made it rad, and we want to use it. But the problem is right now is like when we went through the whole tutorial and like figuring things out, it was like right before like this huge summer rush came. And now it's like, I don't want to go out to my staff and be like, hey, I know how you're stressed right now, like trying to get through your inbox all day and invoices. Let's go ahead and get you to try to use a completely new system. I know you're used to the one we've been using for the last 11 years, but now we're going to try something new in the middle of rush season. So I'm kind of like waiting for fall at this point to be like, hey, let's like ease this in.
That makes sense.
So that's where I'm at with it. Okay, do you want to do quick takes? Or shop hacks? Do you have any shop hacks?
Yeah.
Shop hacks. So for in-house, everything on casters. So tables, as much stuff as you can get on casters so that you can make a modular, cleaning. And then if you need to rearrange for, say you get a big order and you need to have space for pallets or something like that, and your tables are in the way. If everything is on casters, it's a modular system, and you can completely rearrange a lot of your shop based on kind of like your catching area or whatever fulfillment area you may have. So I always feel like having casters, you can basically recreate your shop however you need to on a daily
basis
schedule. Yeah.
That's thumbs up on that.
As far as like, live printing or anything like that, just because I feel like that would probably help. Everybody's always talking, you said the same thing, you're using a full dryer on site. A D100, it's not like a full dryer, but
no, it's like a baby dryer.
I will say it 1,000 times. I think flash dryers are the way to go with flash pallets.
It just terrifies me. Using a flash terrifies me that I'm not curing the shirt all the way.
You will absolutely cure it. It's almost the same heating element as a D100.
No, I understand, but with the dryer, it's set at the specific time that I know it's going to be dry by the time it comes out. With the flash, I'm like, did we do it long enough? Did I leave it under there too long? Did I over flash it? That's what scares me.
Okay, so I definitely get what you're saying, but 99% of the time on site, the print is more important, like the interaction. I know, but you're selling it, so I get that there's a little bit of difference, but 99% of the time people won't care if the ink is a little bit like less. I mean, it will cure. If you do 25 to 30 seconds and you have the right height set, you can get your temp gun, make sure it's all good to go. But if you're able to set, sorry, I have ringing in my ears right now. My phone had a scam likely call.
When you said,
if you're able to set your flash. It's just a lot less setup, a lot less space, and
No,
you have that
I
interaction
fully agree with
the
that.
guests to be able to have
I like
right
that,
there.
but like I feel like if somebody was getting a free shirt and they took it home and you didn't quite cure it all the way and like ink started to fall off, whatever, they'd be like, whatever, fuck it, was a free shirt. But for me, if they're spending $20 on a shirt and it's in my hometown, or like I'm going to run into this person again, and they're like, hey, I bought a shirt from you at the last event, and now it's a plain black shirt because all the ink washed off. Like, that's where I'm like, fuck, I don't want to run into that.
I'm with Max on this one because the first time we ever did a live event, we used a flash and we liked it. But we thought we would scale up, and we got that D100, and I couldn't stand it because he's right. Like, it's still just a flash. It's a panel. It's an IR panel.
Yeah, no, I know.
On top of a conveyor belt.
It's just timed is my thing.
But when we had it, it's timed. But when we had it at the event, it sucked because it was a little bit windy and it just didn't work. It didn't work like an oven. And so I'm with you as far as just timing.
We have things for that.
Just timing it, why not? And what'd you say about the flash pallet? Was it a certain kind of pallet that heats up or something?
No, it's like instead
the base
of
of the pallet.
Instead of putting it over like your actual pallet on the platen on the press, Vastex, and I think Ryonet makes them too. But they basically will connect onto the flash itself. And it basically is like a space saving thing if you don't have money to buy a conveyor dryer, but they sit underneath where the flash is, and you can actually spin them back and forth. So you can have a shirt waiting on one of the pallets while the other one is curing underneath, and you can spin it around, you grab the shirt off, and then you can print it. So you basically just get this like rhythm and control versus sending a shirt off the dryer and then going into like a box, like the box at the end of the dryer or whatever. Like it just lets you take that shirt and hand it over to the person as you're running through a crowd. So, I feel like if you have a flash on site, you're able to just like control a crowd a little bit more than just sending it off. So
I agree. I'll try it sometime, but for me, the dryer works. Anything else, Max? Or are you ready for some quick take, random questions?
Let's do random questions. Quick take.
Okay. Let's see.
Sorry, I'm not a Justin Lawrence shop that guy. I mean,
book full.
So many. Yeah.
No, that's okay. What's one thing you need every morning?
Coffee. 100% coffee.
Are you one of those people that's like, don't talk to me until I have like a cup of coffee?
No, but we have like a pretty solid like coffee drinking crew over here. We do like Chemex over here, or we have a cold brew on tap for the staff, so they can kind of get wild if they want. But we always joke around with like like Dave Grohl had that skit where he was like fresh pots. So we're always just drinking coffee as we go. We call it flying over here. So like somebody's like, it's time to fly, and they'll go to get cold brew at like 3:00. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have an actual like keg?
Yeah. So we have there's a company out here that will come and change the kegs out every 2 weeks. So you have the nitro and the regular, but I feel like it's a pretty good perk for the staff just to have.
Yeah, I mean, Andy's
that
got
option.
Fresh French fries.
That's right.
Yeah.
All of Andy's shirts have fucking grease marks on the side of them from people eating French fries on press.
He's got the short order cook just standing over there ready to go.
He pays somebody on each press to hand French fries into the press operators' mouths so they don't get grease.
That's efficient right there.
Right. Andy, next question.
Best recent read, listen, or watch?
So the latest book I read was Shoe Dog, the Phil Knight one. I don't know if you guys have read that. I listened to audiobooks, but it was a good audiobook. It's cool to hear how a big company like that kind of navigated the early kind of like phases. They had a lot of lucky breaks with their like who they worked with and how they were able to get manufacturing out of the United States and overseas. But that was a good audiobook. It's long. I think it's like 13 or 14 hours or something like that, but maybe it was 8 hours. I can't remember, but it's definitely worth a read if you're a business owner, because
if you like that one, you should
kind of feel a similarity.
You should check out Authentic by the guy who started Vans. It's kind of a similar story, but it's really, really good.
I downloaded it. I haven't started it yet, but I will definitely get that going.
Shoe books.
I watched a lot of, I don't know if you ever watched, there's a show called Alone, and we all watch it over here. But it's a pretty like, Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those easy ones to just like sit back and watch. Like, you know, they're in the wilderness alone for whatever, like 60, 80 days, like up in like deep Canada.
Yeah.
So I watched that. Just started White Lotus on HBO, and that one seems like it's going to be like a weird kind of like off kilter, like dark comedy. So that one just started, and then you know, podcasts here and there. Whether it's like a print podcast,
show
you
not
got
Printavo, right?
Can we do both? I mean, you know, getting all in there.
No, we can definitely do both.
Just a random variety of podcasts. Like if NBA season, I'm a big NBA guy, so I'll listen to like some like the Low Post or Bill Simmons or something like that for an NBA season. And then some music podcasts that Spotify had, I think have been kind of cool. There's like one trying to explain bands that people that just don't like. And they try to explain why they like the bands. Like there was one on Steely Dan, and this guy was like super passionate about Steely Dan and why he likes Steely Dan. So they go through the different albums and try to explain to you like why the songs are good. I forget the name of that one though, but there's a bunch of different podcasts.
That show reminded me, or podcast reminds me of a show that used to be on, I want to say it was either VH1 or MTV, where they would take a band and reunite them. You know, like it had been 15 years or 20 years since they were together, and they would for one day, like find them and just, you know, maybe sing or maybe play a show, like a small show on 3 of their, you know, songs or whatever. Did you ever see that show?
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember what it was called though.
And maybe it was even like a one-hit wonder sometimes, and they would just find wherever they were doing now, like who knows, maybe they were living on a farm in Canada, and they flew them though to like LA to have a small show, and like their fans from the 80s or whatever would show up and party.
I was definitely more of an MTV2 kid, where I actually just sat there and watched music videos, because MTV got taken over by like TV shows, not anything to do with music. And then late night MTV2 was like Beavis and Butthead. And me and my brother and my dad would stay up and watch Beavis and Butthead episodes.
That's solid right there. That's a good,
real good parenting. Turned me into a solid jackass of a human being. But it was great. Did you see that they're bringing Cribs back to MTV?
Mm-mm.
I do like Cribs. Yeah, Cribs is good.
I thought the other good show from MTV when they got into like the reality was True Life. I actually liked True Life when I was younger. I don't know if you remember that one where they like would be like, yeah, I thought that one was actually pretty good for as far as like an early kind of like documentary, like
Vice,
a younger crowd. Yeah, exactly. So, but I don't know. I haven't seen MTV in years, but
yeah, me either. I haven't had cable in a really, really long time. All right,
you know, you were saying before the next question, he was saying something about Shoe Dog, that book, and he said, I guess there was some sort of part in there where Nike got a lot of lucky breaks, and it got me thinking, like, how many has that happened here? You know, like, has it happened to you guys? Did you, like, how much do you think your success has there been some lucky breaks?
I think so.
Like we all have some. You know what I mean? Like we've all landed that weird customer that got us way more customers, or landed us. I don't know. I feel like Max, not like diving into a ton of stuff, but I feel like you getting that job with the band thing, and then also getting the Toyota thing to do live events, like definitely kind of turned into what you're doing now.
And actually,
absolutely.
Him being fired.
Those seem kind of
actually
random.
Both of you fired at the same time.
I think a lot of luck is just taking advantage of the certain situation, you know? So like it seems lucky in retrospect. Like you're looking back and be like, wow, that was actually really lucky. Or like, we're lucky this happened, but like, you don't really see what went into it before that specific moment. Like you're building up to that moment to be able to take advantage of the moment and then build from there.
It's true.
Right.
You know, like what's that saying? Something like 10% of your success is what happens to you, and 90% is what you do with it. You know, like how you react. I think that's something like that. Does that make sense?
I think that it's pretty close to the same. I think so. Maybe that is the exact same.
I think I butchered it, but, but you get the point.
I hope it changes to whatever you just said though. So that's like, now it's attributed to you. It's specifically saying that quote.
Andy Rudman says this. Is it, you're the next question, right?
I got the next one. Yeah. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Oh man. Well, I guess I came to LA to go to school, to college here. So I was in the music industry. So I really wanted to be in the music industry. And I probably would have said, don't focus on the music industry so much, because that was right as Napster and LimeWire and all of those companies were just completely taking everything over. And I don't know, it just seems like that industry works on, bringing people in, not paying, and then trying to replace you with like a threat of replacing you, that there's somebody else who wants to take the job. So maybe just like focusing a little bit more in on business, and like learning, maybe widening, the business acumen, but also maybe smoking a little less weed when I was 20 and not wasting as much money on that, and kind of just trying to focus a little bit more, I guess, in general.
Did you have that period of young smoking weed where you tried to figure out how many things you could make a bowl out of?
Oh yeah. I mean, you're like in college, it's like, it's the time to do it.
That turned us all into engineers. You know what I mean? It was like, what can we make to smoke this out of?
Well, I mean, it's just ridiculous, because like when you're that age, it's like, we can smoke this, we can turn this in, or everything revolves around like, let's smoke a bowl or whatever. But I mean, playing music and smoking was great, like being able to do that. But like, I don't know, the 20-year-old self, I think would just to keep learning, I think would be my biggest advice. Like, keep learning what you can while you can.
I agree. I was an asshole in school. I mean, I had good grades until I got to like 10th grade. And then I kind of just like did that normal high school kid where I just dropped off and like skipped a ton of school. I feel like now I look at that, I'm like, there's definitely things where like I should have just done my fucking homework and like listened and just did stuff to get like in that mindset of like education. But I wasn't. I was skipping school and driving around and going to shows. And
I don't know, it might not have been your fault, because, I wasn't cut out for like the ecosystem that school was. You know what I mean? Like when at certain age, I mean, early, like you said, it was fine. But then at a certain point, I was like, man, this whole thing sucks. I would learn much better in a different format or different setting. And so didn't have that choice though.
It's not for everybody. Well, and I think that's fine.
We wouldn't all be sitting here right now if we did things differently. So we're good. All right.
So Andy. So true. So what would you be doing if you weren't printing shirts?
Oh man, that is a good question. Like I said, music was a big part of my life when I was younger. Nowadays it's hard with kids I have a almost 2-year-old and a almost 5-year-old. So like any time for music now is playing kid songs for them, so it's tough to get away to do that. I don't know. I would maybe real estate, something in that world. I don't know. I always enjoy kind of seeing like what the real estate market's doing and seeing that whole area. I don't, it's tough to say, maybe be in the music industry still. It's hard to see where like my life would navigate, I guess.
I feel like you would just still have to have that business mindset that you have now in some other space, like you said, with real estate or whatever, like growing it and figuring it out.
Not working for somebody else though. I am terrible at working for other people. And I'm sure that's why you guys own businesses. Yeah. It's just not what I could do.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I always have to open this back up. What's your favorite thing to cook?
Favorite thing to cook? Sometimes I like barbecuing, whether it's burgers or steaks or stuff like that. We're kind of in like a weird rut at home right now, cooking meals. We used to do Blue Apron or like those meal kits. And I feel like that helps you kind of just like experiment with cooking. But now it's like, we like go to the store and we're like, let's get the 4 things we make every week and continue to make that every single week.
That's how we are. Yeah.
right now I don't have a favorite thing because I feel like we're just like doing the same thing over and over again. But it's hard to get kids to eat food that you cook every single time. Yeah. And they're just like, no, I don't want that. And you're like, oh, I just spent all the time making food. Just eat the
how can you just eat peanut butter sandwiches all day long? Like, I don't understand.
Well, and you're in LA and you can just go to In-N-Out Burger anytime you want.
LA is a great food city. There's so much stuff here. So that definitely helps, as far as like maximizing what we can eat, I guess.
Right. Takeout wise. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, cap it off.
What is for dinner or lunch? What is for dinner? Oh yeah, it's super early there. So what's for lunch?
Lunch, I have a Freshly. I don't know which one it is. I think it's like a chicken bowl or something like that. Dinner, Friday night is usually our order out night. So we'll usually order dinner for the family on Friday night. We might order a spot called Joy. It's Taiwanese food, but it's super good. So maybe that, I guess, but that might change from now until the end of the night, depending upon what we feel like when we look through Postmates or whatever app we use to deliver it. So
boiled hot dogs.
Yeah, I always got to keep a pack of those around.
Right.
You just have it actually sitting on the stove with water right now. You just can turn it on whenever you need.
Well,
it.
you got to use the same water. It's like seasoning it. You know what I mean? It's it's like cast iron skillet, but you're using old hot dog water.
Max, it was really good to talk to you. I was weird. We at Printavo, Dylan brought it up 2 years ago, 3, I can't remember. We just happened to be sitting next to one another and just started chatting. And I had no idea that you were actually going to be speaking. And so learned a whole lot then and also today.
Yeah,
are we going to be able to hang out in Long Beach next year, or is that even going to happen?
Yeah, I think Long Beach will happen. Are you guys going to go to any other conferences this year? We're going to just go back to Chicago for Print Hustlers just to.
Yeah, we'll be there. And then we're also going to be in Orlando for Print United.
I probably won't be at that one, but if you guys come to Long Beach, come on by. I mean, we're a little bit outside. I mean, LA is such like a big metro area. So like Long Beach, I think it's like a 40 minute drive. Depending on traffic, it could be an hour.
That's not bad.
But if you come by then, but if not, we can all hang out at Print Hustlers and keep doing the podcast. I think it's good for shops across the world. It sounds like you guys have a bunch of different shops on here, and I think it's a good connecting point for businesses of all sizes in the industry to kind of hear similar stories, of how the way that they're doing things, or they can gain knowledge from it, or, hear somebody who's got a similar like start and, to where the point they are now, or how to grow it from the point where they are. And I think it's good for everybody to kind of be on the same page, because sometimes you feel a little alone when you're in that industry and you just like don't know as a business owner, like which direction to take next. So I think it's a really cool thing that you guys are doing.
Thanks, dude. Well, go be productive and enjoy the rest of your workday. I think we're going to go try to do the same.
All right, we'll have fun in the future, because you guys are 3 and 2 hours ahead.
Yeah, we're in the future right now. I'll send you some lottery numbers.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. I would love to. I'd love to make some money, and I will share that with you. I will. I'll share the winnings. Yep.
That's fine. See you, dude.
All right, thanks, guys.
Later.
All right, bye.